evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beer Blather 282, where we are now. We just passed the 6 months mark of the Trump presidency. Just 6 months, 186 days, actually. In this short period, we have gotten control of the border, reduced taxes, reduced spending, achieved the first month of fiscal surplus in decades, negotiated peace between Congo and Rwanda, eliminated the threat of nuclear weapons from Iran, tamed inflation, lowered prices of groceries, gas, and oil, deported tens of thousands of some of the worst criminals, rescued nearly 14,000 children from slavery and abuse, eliminated billions of fraud and abuse, revitalized the auto industry, eliminated the solar energy and EV scams, improved trade, put China in a box, and made great advances to free Ukraine and eliminate terrorism in the Middle East and in the Americas. And don't forget getting Europe to commit resources to their own defense and finally take the lead of the Muh Russia coup. And the list goes on. None of that was possible. And all of that was done in the face of fierce democratic opposition and Luther and a wishy-washy choir of former opium sellers now grifting on despair. America is back as we anticipated. Trump tariffs did not break the markets or cause inflation, but the results, both in terms of revenues and change of habits, are about to usher in an era of prosperity most Americans have never experienced. Take heart, folks. We are at the liminal point of America's recovery, and that will allow us to restore our institutions and the proper functioning of government. Do not be distracted by the last gasps of the woke socialist involution. They will soon be but a bad memory and no more. Now I have to go back to the screen if I can find my way around it. So I can tell you this is Solvent Bradley, the largest human repository of useless information from back after a very accidental trip in my golden cage in Florida. And right over there to my left is Thomas Victor, the only living expert in World War One flamethrower and throwers and savant extraordinaire. How about that? You like that title?
Sure. You could call me anything except late for dinner.
Oh, I was going to say, how should I call you? They tell me sometimes. I say, I don't know. Hey, you, anything but asshole, you're welcome to it.
Oh,
So,
you were going to say so?
how
So?
are you? How
Oh,
are
I'm
you?
good. I'm good. California is changing at an incredible pace, and it turns out that most of the quality of life issues that we had in this state were due to illegal aliens. Because now that so many of them are self-deporting, the traffic is better. There's almost no skyrockets anymore. There are I haven't seen any more dangerous dogs roaming the neighborhood looking for people to bite. When you call 911, the cops actually respond. They do their job. So
No.
really, also the cops are now. They went through this period where they were only recruiting 400 pounders, and now they're recruiting, cop-sized people again. So this whole notion that the economy depended wholly on illegal aliens added much more than they took. And if we deported illegal aliens, we would cease to exist as a country.
Yes.
It's as big a bowl of crap as everything else we've been told.
Of
So
course.
yeah, I'm still going to leave California because the voters are dumb, and the state is outrageously stupid. They just added more tax to gas, so we're paying, where I am right now, we're paying $5 a gallon, and just wait until August. It's going to go up to about 8 probably. So the state, the voters will continue to vote in politicians who want to ream them, and the voters will feel this warm glow of righteousness by being reamed. Did you see the video of the people, the leftists from Cincinnati who tried to block the bridge into Kentucky, and the Kentucky cops?
Yes.
They came out.
I saw a ball of lard doing not too well in that circumstance.
Well, there were cops swinging haymakers.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen that since I don't even know when. And they were all sad. The people from Cincinnati were all sad because their cops have all been neutered, and Kentucky cops aren't neutered. They're from Kentucky after all, and you're not allowed to mess with infrastructure in Kentucky. You can do it in Cincinnati, but you can't do it in Kentucky.
Right.
And just the sheer outrage. It's really funny. We tried to block a bridge and they split our heads for us. And it's like, yeah, because that's what happens when you try to block bridges.
Oh, the inhumanity.
Yeah.
They're lucky it wasn't me clearing the bridge. They would have been under it.
You can stand on the side of the road, and with you can hold up your big signs that say whatever dumb thing you want to write on them. But when you start preventing people from getting to work, and ambulances from getting to hospitals, and kids from going to school, then the cops will step in, and they'll tell you, get off the bridge. And if you refuse, then they'll take out. I've seen the return of batons in multiple jurisdictions, and these are old-fashioned wooden batons. And
yes,
it's we've had a culture shift that's really amazing.
And it's only beginning, Thomas.
It's only beginning, and it's happening
these
really
are like
fast.
The birth pangs. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But the birth pangs, it's only starting now. It's going to get more. When I wanted to do a list of the things we have seen in the past 6 months, where we are, the list I just read is a very abridged version.
Well, see, you can't actually.
Mind-boggling.
It really is, and I'm convinced that the Trump administration brought up Epstein for 2 reasons: a distraction that allows Trump to do all sorts of things under the radar, legislatively, judicially, and globally. He's doing all that. But also, okay, Nancy Pelosi said when all this started, let's not talk about Epstein. You hear me, people on my side? Let's not talk about Epstein. And the rumbles I'm hearing now is that once everything really starts coming out, the Democrats are going to wish they've never heard the name Epstein, and it's going to have no impact whatsoever on Trump.
No. Well, Trump is the guy, people forget, Trump is the guy who kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago.
Not only that.
And then went to the cops and fingered him, and that led to Epstein's first stint in jail.
This is the thing. There was a Trump-hating CNN legal expert on CNN, and he said everybody forgets that Trump is the guy who put Epstein in jail for the first time.
Yes.
And so the notion that they were buddies is insane.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Whatever.
Can you imagine Epstein's unrequited love for the guy who put him in the slammer?
Well, okay, there's a clip where Epstein is asked if he and Trump ever hung around with underage girls, and Epstein took the fifth. Epstein took the fifth because they asked if he hung around with underage girls. So the Democrats are saying, see, look, there's your proof. No.
Proof of what?
Epstein, well, exactly. Again, this Trump hating CNN legal analyst was telling the anchors, like you have to like wake up. You're acting like morons. And of course, they're not going to wake up. They're in too deep, as we were talking about before we went on the air, that the press is just as responsible as the Obama administration and the Biden administration when it comes to weaponizing the intelligence arm, the judiciary, and the federal law enforcement against political opponents. The press is all in on that, and again, they're going to be very unhappy. They're unhappy now. They're going to be even more unhappy as time goes on.
They haven't even begun to suffer the consequences of their
No,
actions.
no,
When you see, I was in DC this week. I have much more to tell you about that. But Tulsi Gabbard was supposed to be at a meeting with us, and at the last moment, she sent somebody else because at that very moment she was doing the press conference in the White House, dropping shoe number 2. By the way, it's not the other shoe; it's shoe number 2 because we have a singular arachnid dropping shoes. There's about 100 shoes.
yeah, it's a centipede. So
It's a fucking centipede dropping shoes here.
yeah,
So it, this time she dropped another shoe. A lot of people are beginning to say, "Oh my God, I didn't know it was this big." Even um, oh God, I'm having a brain fart. Our friend Dan Bongino.
Dan
Even
Bongino.
Dan Bongino says, "What I've learned here, it's too big." What you've learned here is too big. Wait and see, baby, because when when we described the real insurrection, the coup in 2017, the maneuvers and the use of our institutions to stop candidate Trump, and when that didn't work to get him out of office, there is no precedent. There is no, even the successful removal of Nixon doesn't hold a candle to the level of corruption that we're seeing here. And there are a
No,
number of names that haven't been named yet, but will, like Sally Yates, like Jake Sullivan, like Ben Rhodes, like Samantha Power,
no,
like
and
Tony Ferranti. And
the
and
thing,
this is bigger than people realize even now.
it's bigger and stupider. Like these people
Well,
all
that's
assume
true.
that I mean they took spectacular risks. I'm watching a Korean dramatic miniseries right now about political and judicial and law enforcement corruption in Korea. And the in Korea, prosecutors are also investigators, just like the cop. They
Yes.
do their own investigations. And so there's one guy who is a high-ranking investigator in a certain division, and he ends up bringing down basically everybody. And they never thought it could happen. They were pulling off stunts that were astonishing, and the records are all there. That's the thing. And when it finally starts happening, they can't stop it because the dominoes have started to fall, and
Yep.
the lower downs are saying, I'll tell you everything, just keep me out of prison.
Well,
And
I can tell you now that they're coming out of the woodworks for this one.
exactly, and
People who remained silent for 8 years are standing in line to talk before the hammer drops on them.
Yeah, because this is one of those cases. Okay, I saw a video where some pathetic gardener ran into a mall surgery lot here in California, and he was saying, "Please save me, please save me," because he was being chased by ICE. So, two medical staffers.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Is it too bad that it gave me pleasure?
Did you see the size of that one ICE officer?
Mm-hmm.
He was physically twice the size of everybody in that area. And
Yes.
okay, the two idiots are now facing federal charges. They've been photographed, and the photos have been released by DHS. And the mind actually boggles because, okay, ICE. What's happening now with ICE is that they're taking. You can get attached to ICE if you're a federal a Bureau of Prisons member of one of their goon squads, the guys who have to go into the cells and subdue the criminal who's not.
The removal teams.
Exactly. That guy fits perfectly the description of most federal goons. They're 6 feet 5 inches tall, and they weigh almost
3 feet in circumference, but that's just muscle.
Exactly. And here's these two idiots kind of going the enormous man is basically ignoring them as he's getting his job done. And then it's their turn. Okay, now you get to go in handcuffs. And this is how people are in California. They, he's being kidnapped. And it's like,
have you noticed that generally speaking, if you're kidnapped, the kidnappers are not sending you home?
They're not sending you home. We always hear in California, if all the illegals go home, who's going to mow your lawns?
Newsom. He's useless otherwise.
Well, I've been here for 20 years, and the professionals who mow the lawns have also been here. None of them have disappeared. They're all Mexican. They all speak English. They're all American citizens. They did it the right way. And all of them started out as one guy with a lawnmower, and now they have their own trucks with logos and websites and everything. They're success stories. The illegal gardener who runs into the surgery center, he's a failure. He's a flop. He did it. He crossed the border illegally, and he would mow your lawn for 15 cents and
undercut your Mexicans.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's nothing good about illegal immigration. There's nothing good about it.
No, by definition, there's nothing good.
There's nothing.
You and I used to argue that to call these criminals immigrants is like calling a stowaway a passenger.
Yeah.
When you get a stowaway, right? When you get a stowaway in a ship, you don't sit him in the first class dining room. You drop him off at the first port after keeping him in the brig throughout the journey. And they're entitled to maybe enough water and bread not to die in the process, and that's it. These are stowaways. These are not immigrants. The first people who are affected by the presence of these criminals is the immigrants.
Yep.
Because they are the first ones who get their salaries undercut, who get their jobs in jeopardy, who have to stand for hours in an ER because, now we're giving medical privileges to every member of the horde. eh, those are the people who suffer the most, and those are the people who have the immigrant studies are the people who have the most to gain by the removal of the stowaways.
Exactly. No, I used to have chronic gastritis, and I had to go to the emergency room 3 times. And during those 3 times, I had to wait about 8 hours in order to be seen,
Yep.
feeling that I was being stabbed with bayonets in my belly. And once I got in, they gave me morphine, and it cured it. Eventually, I had surgery, and I'm fine. But the place was packed with Mexicans, and I can speak Spanish. I can understand Spanish. They would go into the room next to me, and they would say, I don't have an ID and I don't have an address. And the hospital staff would say, just make up something, make up a name and make up an address. And so the guy who is the freeloader, the stowaway, would get his free treatment. And it was generally for a headache, for a runny nose, for diarrhea. And then I would be seen for a condition that eventually required surgery. And it's like, okay, where is the justice in any of that? Where is the justice? And Mexicans, lower class Mexicans, have a long tradition of not seeking medical treatment until their condition is much worse than it would have been if they'd immediately gone to the doctor.
Yep.
And then they have to be hospitalized, and it costs all of us even more. They end up with much worse outcomes, usually ending up in chronic conditions.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, why are we required to take on this cost? What, why is it our responsibility? And the answer is that it isn't.
Well, there is one thing. Funny you mentioned the cost, because we have a lot to celebrate in savings. I mean, we're not giving any more money to PBS or NPR. For crying out loud, it's been a pet peeve of mine for at least 30 years. And it's done. That's another one I didn't mention today. Bye. And we're saving something in the order of $500 billion already in bullshit that's been cut. But when you take a look at the cost of the illegal immigration in this country, we're talking trillions.
Mhm.
Over a number of years. There's trillions of dollars in SSI payments, food stamps. There are assholes who were getting $2,800 a head in food stamps. They had too many children. It's absurd. It's absurd. People who had to work a shit ton of hours to get $2,800, and then we tax them. And these assholes get $2,800, $3,000 in food stamps, and they don't even pay tax when they use it.
When
And the medical cost that you were mentioning, eh, we're talking trillions. Does it cost money to send them home? Yes, we're going to save a bundle anyway.
when George W. Bush was pushing for amnesty, the talk show host Michael Medved said that we should all support it because we were going to create a class of natural conservatives who would vote conservative. And my position was that we were going to create a class of professional criminals because they didn't come across the border and wander around with big helpless eyes. What they did was they went to MacArthur Park here in California. They got fake licenses. They got fake Social Security cards. They got fake what do you call it? Registration for cars. These
Some
guys
cases got fake birth
in a way that they weren't. It wasn't okay. You hear this. You're arresting them only for crossing the border. No, we're arresting
No,
them not just for crossing the border, but for existing in an illegal state in this country,
for fraud,
committing
committing
crimes,
fraud to begin with.
credit card fraud, insurance fraud,
Yes,
healthcare fraud. I mean,
identity theft.
identity theft. So, and they know how to do it. They know how to do it. There's an
Listen,
enormous system.
I remember years ago at a supermarket popular with the new arrivals in Miami. They had a little desk in front of the supermarket offering people help to request rental subsidies and
Oh,
EBT
yeah.
cards and all that jazz. And they would go there and they would say, "Well, but I need a social security." Don't worry. Go to that desk first, where they would help them get a TIN, uh, tax identification number. And then they would do this thing anyway. And with Obama in government, uh, people were giving food stamps with tax ID numbers.
Mhm.
It's ridiculous. Now, when I say with Obama, is I'm talking about 2009, 2010. 15 years these people have been on the dole.
Mhm.
15 years. How much money have we already spent?
Well, there's a church at the end of my street, and it's not a real church. It's it's never had a service in its entire existence, and they own two or three houses, and they put in illegal alien families in the houses, and
Yes.
they sort of stay there for a while. It's like a halfway house, and then they go off to wherever they go off to, and everything's been shut down. And in all the time I've been here permanently since '93, and off and on since 1967. Maybe 400 or 500 families have gone through those houses, and every one of those people, and they were all clown houses. They were all crammed with 15, 20 people in each little 3-bedroom house, or 2-bedroom house rather. Um, and just that one little church alone did so much financial damage to this country. It's shocking.
Yes.
And
Because
and
all of that they were doing, and it's not just the money that the illegals cost, but the money that the organizers of this camp got. Because I'm sure there was an asshole there with a $500,000 a year salary 10 years ago.
oh
Because
yeah, of
they were
course.
getting federal and state money at the wazoo, and they were filling their pockets and buying their yachts and allowing the illegals to use services. When you put it together, I mean, it is. I don't know how we got to this point. This is worse than COVID in terms
Do
of
you
collective
remember?
delusion.
Do you remember hearing the phrase "the browning of America"?
Oh yes, they're
Yeah.
reviving it now. Fucking, they're replacement shit.
See, it doesn't happen because intermarriage in this country is astronomical. And what happens is, let's say you have a brown person, so I'll use their terminology. They marry a white person and they have a mocha colored person. That person is much more likely to marry a white person. So by the third generation, it's already white.
Yeah. By the
It,
way,
it,
statistically, since about even today, 60-70% of the population is nearly white. Chances are that by the third generation, they're going to mix further.
yeah, you it's the weirdest thing. And for the last few years, people have been identifying as black or Hispanic or whatever when they're completely white.
Yeah,
You know, you see them
yeah,
talking on social media, and it's like, I'm sorry, you're a white guy.
you're a
You
white
know,
guy, but
you can.
I can say this because I'm talking about my wife and children. So if anybody doesn't like it, they can tickle my balls. A, a mulatto is a cafe au lait. You can still see black features, but much lighter. And have you noticed, by the way, when you see an African next to a black American, did
Yeah,
you
yeah.
notice that?
The black American is always in the United States.
It's very
Black
light compared
people,
to the African fella. But the
well,
thing
also
is,
black
yeah,
Americans have a massive prejudice against dark skinned blacks.
of course. Eh, and then the next generation, the mulatto marries a white. The next generation is a quarteroon, and a quarteroon is white. Or it could be white with a little curly hair. But in the old days, they used to say passes for white. And then that one marries white, and the octagoon is indistinguishable from any other white person.
Yeah.
Eh, the black gets constantly diluted. Now, it may be that in the third or fourth generation, one of the kids is born with a permanent tan, but that is a recessive gene.
Well, what's the name of that stupid football player who has done? He's been a hero for.
Kaepernick,
Yeah,
yeah, when
yeah.
you say stupid football player, that's the first name in my mind.
He's a white guy. He's a white guy with a big old hook nose. You know, he's a white
Yes,
guy.
yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, it's not the browning of anything. People who talk about the browning of America are the worst kind of fucking racist assholes you're gonna
Yeah.
find. And usually those are the same that will tell you that all of these things with illegal immigrants is an effort to repopulate, to replace the white population with these browns. Never mind that 80% of the illegal immigrants coming from South America are white themselves. They're not brown or black, they're white.
Yeah.
Spaniards,
Well, this is why
French.
they had to introduce the non-Hispanic. Was it non-Hispanic whites or
Right.
it's just like
It,
what?
it,
So
they're,
you're
they're,
admitting
always,
that
they're,
this is
they're always
massive?
trying to slice theater, and
Yeah.
it's ridiculous on its face.
No.
You and I would be brown Hispanics according to these fucking imbeciles.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, my mother was Mexican, and despite the fact that I'm bright pink, um, I can be treated as a Mexican on all the documents. I can get all the benefits that Mexicans get instead of white Americans. I could do all of that. I never do.
Yeah,
Whenever I'm
yeah,
asked my
you
race,
never do because you're honest.
well, I always put declined to state when I'm asked my race on a form.
Yeah,
So
when they ask for race on the phone, I write human.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
It's
the minor differences within the human race are none of my concern.
I saw something about um, Neanderthals. No,
They're around us. Take a look at John Brennan.
well, they reconstructed these Neanderthals and they left them bald and gray. It's the British. And when they were asked about it, they said that they didn't want to give them hair because they didn't know if their hair was straight or curly, and they didn't want to give them skin tone because they didn't know if they were dark or light. And it's just like,
So they made him green, like Shrek.
no, they left them gray, like cement gray, a battleship gray. They're just like, you're idiots. When the Austrians reconstructed that one they found in the ice, the flattened one. They made him a blonde, blue-eyed white guy, and they said
It probably was too.
exactly that's the thing. And okay, Neanderthals lived for hundreds of thousands of years, and by the end of it, they were white. I mean, they were white, and they had straight hair,
They're
and
still here.
they're still here. Yeah,
They're still here. Their genes. Half the population of Europe has a Neanderthal gene.
yeah, yeah,
Some of them have, more like 90%, and John Brennan is a pure Neanderthal. But
yeah,
with the slanted forehead and all that jazz,
yeah,
dead giveaway. But there is only one group of humans that cohabited with the Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, and occupied a small region in North Africa, around Algiers, Libya, and the only reason we know of them is they found remains, and lately they've made a couple of great finds. It turns out that they had a culture of their own and all that jazz, and they were so much in the middle of fucking nowhere that they didn't mix with anybody, and eventually they got to a dead end. But Neanderthals, they're amongst us.
yeah. No, they were all over the place, and you know, okay, what we're seeing now not only is we're seeing basically a return to rationality in the mainstream, and you know, we talk about Obama corrupting everything he touched. I mean, literally everything. Science, when science is totally
Starting with Michelle. Sorry.
science is totally corrupt, and we're going to have to get back to the point where your own personal desires don't go into it, and you just go where the evidence takes you.
Yes.
And you know, so much of what I grew up thinking, or scratch that, so much of what I grew up being told is false. And then we went through today it was 70 degrees in late July in Los Angeles.
Global warming.
Yeah, global warming. It was a scorching 70 degrees.
Yes.
It's supposed to be in the hundreds by now, and it's not. And
well, it's climate change.
well, okay, we can talk about climate change. Climate change wiped out the megafauna that were here, all the 18-foot tall rhinoceroses, and at the time there were almost no human beings. So you can't blame us; you blame Mother Nature.
Yes.
Mother Nature switched everything up. Look at all those eras. There was an era where we had nothing but gigantic insects and 200-foot tall pine trees.
We still have gigantic insects in Washington.
We do, and
We do.
they
Huge cockroaches with suits and ties.
and if New York and Minneapolis elect people who are crazy, I don't see why our side is so upset about it. I don't see why people are angry at the New Yorkers for loving Mamdani, and the Minnesotans are angry for loving the newest Somali. I don't see why. Like, let him do it. Let him do it. Let him get all the way down to the bedrock, the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Let them do it. They may learn something, or they may stay down there for all eternity. We don't know.
Big cities in civilization have risen and fallen, and some risen again and some not. And you have, all of these cities of the Pueblo deserted out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Hmm?
Well, maybe that is New York's fate to become a ghost town. It's up to them.
Exactly.
Now, my belief is they're gonna take it into the fucking dumps. They're gonna make it into a living hell. Escape from New York will become a reality, And when the whole thing is turned to shit, some little fuck who wants to, paint with his fingers is going to discover that on his meager artist salary, all he can afford is a shitty apartment in rundown Manhattan. And he's going to rent that one and paint a mural in the front and navigate among the drunkards and the. Oh shit! I actually did that in New York,
Mhm.
and and eventually, the artist neighborhood becomes trendy, and people go to the Broom Street Cafe because the waitresses there are topless,
Mhm.
but it's not a topless bar; it's a regular hamburger place. It, I'm describing what I saw in New York in the late '70s, and you could buy a building in what is now Soho for 10 grand. As a matter of fact, the building of 438 Broom Street was bought by a friend of mine for $13,000. A 6 story building, and he converted one of the floors into a loft for himself, and he built his photo studio in the basement. And today, I don't think you can buy one of those floors for less than 4 million. And we're not talking about such a huge period. I mean, I'm talking about the late '70s. It's going to happen again. It's going to turn to shit. People are going to escape to Florida, Texas, the suburbs, the Hamptons, or wherever the fuck they can go to get away from hell. And there's going to be a collapse in real estate, and all of these fuckers are going to be out of a job. And eventually, it's going to rebuild. Or no? Do I care? Do you?
No, it's like no, it's like Portland, Seattle, San Francisco. Uh,
Detroit?
Fisherman's Wharf is dead. Every single establishment is closed down now. So
Yeah.
all that tourist money has been taken away from the city, and they haven't learned a goddamn thing from it. Um, it's this state is a state full of dummies, and they are driven entirely by hatred of conservatives. And everything they do, they when they vote, when they think this is really going to piss off conservatives. And there are some conservatives who will make shows about how the hell can they elect Mamdani, and they go, see, look, he's all upset. And it's like, but Mamdani is going to kill you. He's not going to hurt that conservative who doesn't live in New York. He's gonna the they had a government run grocery store in, where was it, some blue city, and they shut it down almost immediately because the gangs of young valedictorians would come in and strip the whole thing bare and run out. And the
How
government,
about the many that the government of Peron built in Argentina,
yeah,
or the many in Havana today,
yeah,
with empty shells and rotten chicken? Um,
uh,
it's not like it's never been done before.
the
We
Soviets
know
had
we
government
know how
run.
it is.
The Soviets
Yes,
had, and you stood in line to get whatever they had
you stood in
there.
line for hours to get a loaf of bread. By the time you made it, there was no bread left.
Uh,
You it's fucking genius. The profit margin on supermarkets is 1 to 2%. How can you lower the prices more? Competition. He's made it so that nobody can make a shit ton of money on groceries. Nobody. They have to branch out into other merchandise to have some profit because in groceries they're not making money and they never will. Imbeciles.
no, and
Imbecile.
you know Okay, the only time I ever think about Portland is when the latest idiot gets arrested by ICE or whatever.
Mm.
I never think about Seattle. The whole place could be swirling down the drain as far as I'm concerned, and I wouldn't care. I don't care. I went to a writers' conference in Portland. God, it's got to be 15 years ago now,
Mm.
and I decided to visit my old college just for Old Lang Syne. And the closer I got to it, the less interested I was because I was just passing, you know, it was like I was driving through Lebanon in the 1970s. And finally, I
Yeah.
just said, you know what, I'm getting out of here. I have no desire to see any of this anymore. Um, when I lived in Portland, I graduated in '85, so I was there from '81 to '85. If you were in a payphone booth and you called 911, the cops would be there right about when you hung up.
Yeah.
And
Right now, there are no public phones. If you have signal and you call 911, in many places the cops will never come.
or you get
Where
a
are
busy
you?
signal. You get a
Yeah,
busy
what?
signal.
Yeah, you have a busy signal, or where are you? I'm on the corner of F. There are places in Washington D.C. in the southeast that the cops will never go,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and they will pretty much tell you you're on your own.
Mhm. No, I mean, I just there's no point in wasting any time. When John Belushi died, Dan Aykroyd said something that I thought was really cruel at the time, but now I agree with him. He said that Belushi made a bunch of stupid decisions, and now he was not going to be here to enjoy life, and that and Aykroyd said you have to look forward. You can't look back. You have to view that guy as a casualty of war,
Yeah,
and just you can think about him every now and then, but you can't let him bring you down.
no,
And that's the way I
he
view.
was right. You're correct. I saw. I think I read it in a Wired interview of Aykroyd after Belushi died, and you're correct. It seemed cruel, but he was absolutely right.
Yeah, and okay, Aykroyd turned the world upside down to save Belushi, and Aykroyd and Belushi's wife they hired like a babysitter multiple times who would frisk John for cocaine, and they had just hired the guy. The guy was packing his suitcase, and Aykroyd was packing his suitcase to fly out to L.A. And that's when they got the call that he was dead.
Yeah,
And it's just I view Portland, I view Seattle, I view all these cities as the same.
Chicago.
Chicago,
You know that in Detroit they've turned a lot of city blocks back into farmland.
yeah, I've seen the bulldozed houses and
Yeah.
everything.
Do you miss those blocks?
Nobody does.
Nobody does this. There used to be a city. Now it's a cornfield. Good.
Yeah.
Now do the rest of that shithole. It's you know like climate.
Mhm.
Everything is a constant ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Everything is ever changing. Uh, 300, 300, 150 years ago, there was absolutely no city right here where I am. You take a look out of my window, and you have through the camera, and you see this never-ending city with lights everywhere and avenues. 150 years ago, this was the fucking Everglades.
Well,
There was zilch here.
in my lifetime, we would go to Miami. We did this we did it for 3 summers in a row. First time was in 69. So he did it
It was a
69,
fucking, it was a
69,
fucking Hamlet in '69.
69, 70, 71. Um,
Yeah.
we would get um, our annual medical checkups and dental checkups. We stayed in this 1930s dark Art Deco hotel called the Columbus. And then once everything was taken care of, we would drive across these causeways to this island called Sanibel. And Sanibel was...
That, by the way, that meant that you had to drive first through the original Alligator Alley.
Yeah. And
It was back then. Now it's an interstate, but back then in '69 it was a two-way, a 2-lane highway,
right.
one west, one east, cutting through the middle of the fucking Everglades, with alligators popping up. If you had to change a tire, you needed somebody watching out in case an alligator came.
Well,
And
we drove
over to Naples and then on to Sanibel.
We stayed in a place called Hurricane House, and
Yes.
you drove through the Everglades on roads that were made of crushed seashells.
Yes.
And you turned into Hurricane House. Everything was crushed seashells, and the people who owned Hurricane House, I think their name was Kirby. And Mr. Kirby was an elderly guy. And the first time we went there, he came out and he greeted us. We stayed there, I think, 10 days. And we had 5 kids. I was 7, so it was 9, 8, 7, 5, and 3. And he took us over to where the mailbox was, and there were there was the driveway, and then there were ditches on either side full of water. And he said, each ditch has an alligator in it, so stay away from the ditches. And we said, okay.
Okay.
And that was it. There was no fence.
You better.
And in the morning, 2 C-47 I can't remember what they're called. C-40, not C-47. Yeah, no, DC-3s. 2 DC-3s.
Oh, the DC-3, the small one with a
twin engine.
No, with twin engine with a tail skid instead of a front.
Yeah.
Wheelhouse.
These two would fly over about 10 feet off the beach, spraying for bugs, and sometimes we would be on the beach with these DC-3s coming at us. And one time,
DDT. I remember those, and we survived, but the mosquitoes didn't.
Exactly. My father just stood there with his arms folded and let these things fly about 3 feet over his head. And that was a visual I've never forgotten. But that was Hurricane House is still there, and it looks like the world's biggest, ugliest condo, and everything's built up. All of that happened. All of that changed in my lifetime. The Columbus Hotel is long gone. If you're lucky, you can buy memorabilia on eBay. So people who tell us about climate change, everything changes. We ourselves change. You and I don't look like what we look like when we were 20 years old.
No, I look better now.
Well, we're different, and
yes,
I want to live to be 100 so I can see what'll happen. I want to see the upcoming changes. I want to be around when Baron Trump becomes president. So okay, it was just announced that a huge horde of investors went to Syria and pledged 160 billion in rebuilding Syria. So think about it. we had that civil war that went on for since 2011. As soon as they get rid of Assad, everything starts changing at warp speed. Um, I know the Thais and the Cambodians are fighting, but again, every war that happens now is like it's either
You mean China is trying to create a little trouble in that area, right?
yeah, but I mean the Cambodian armed forces, they spend 18 million a year. That's their military budget,
Yeah,
and
they're ridiculous.
The Thais have F-16s. They're our allies.
Yes.
And Trump has told them, look, you knock it off or we're going to sanction both your asses. So, it's another border dispute. India, Pakistan, border
Yeah.
dispute. Thailand, Cambodia,
Well,
border dispute.
India Pakistan is a border dispute, but there is the terrorism component to it.
Yeah. It's
Eh, and
the,
they've been going at it for 40, 50 years now.
yeah, the Pakistani government is like Iran Junior.
Yeah.
They love creating terrorist groups and like the mullahs, the people running Pakistan don't follow the precepts of Islam at all. They're degenerates basically. But when Obama was president, he overthrew Gaddafi. And look at Libya. Libya has been fucked up ever since Obama did that.
I mean, it wasn't paradise before, but it definitely was more fucked up. And Gaddafi was already a defanged tiger.
Oh, he was what? He was like 75 years old or something?
Not only that, when we invaded Iraq, Gaddafi got the message. He was one
Yeah.
of the first to get the message, and he ran over to Bush, threw himself at Bush's feet, and said, "Oh, I'm going to deal. I'm going to deal. Here's all the chemical weapons. Here's all the nuclear program. And by the way, that son of a bitch gave the nuclear program to us, and he uncovered the HQ can network and North Korea and all the jazz. He did us a solid with that.
Mhm.
And from that moment on, he was no longer an enemy of the U.S. He had become a servant of the U.S. And that's the one Obama picked a fight with.
Well, it was Samantha Power who came up with this notion of responsibility to protect, saying that every country in the world must invade any country that's oppressing its own people. And Gaddafi was fighting one of these endless insurgencies, and
Yes.
we just arbitrarily chose him because that was Obama's opportunity to lead from the
Yeah.
rear. Remember, that's what they actually called it. He's leading
Yes.
from the rear.
Because France and England, actually, France was the one that spearheaded the effort to bomb Libya. And they did so because they wanted to speed up the barbecue of the fuel of the oil deal between Libya and Italy.
Mhm.
And they wanted Total Fina to take over. And we went over there just, to do the French a solid. Now, the problem is that Gaddafi was fighting an insurgency spearheaded by fucking Al Qaeda.
Which the Obama administration lied about. Remember Susan Rice saying that the attack on the American consulate was because of that movie trailer, and then they came out and they said Al Qaeda wasn't involved because Al Qaeda was dead, and as a matter of fact, Al Qaeda
It, it was Al
launched that
Qaeda.
fucking attack. It was Al
Yes,
Qaeda.
it was Al Qaeda in the Sahel, led by Mohammed al Zawahiri, the brother of Ayman.
Yep.
And it was a simultaneous attack to the attack on the American embassy in Cairo, which the Egyptian army stopped after the attackers had gone over the first line of defense. I mean, come on! Sons of bitches. You mentioned Samantha Power. I think that she's one of those who have to go to jail once all of this is discovered. What she did, she was one of the first to unmask General Flynn,
Sure.
and she did so before the Kislyak phone call.
Yeah. I used
They
to
were
know.
looking. They were desperately looking for something to latch onto.
I used to know all the facts behind how unmasking worked, and every essentially law that Samantha Power broke. I've forgotten it all, but
Hmm.
essentially all the promises that Obama made about not being able to tell. Okay, as far as I remember, U.S. intelligence was able to look at. There's a term for the information you get. They were able to look at phone numbers and see if this phone number calling that phone number in the States was suspicious. If you got a phone number from
This, this started with the Patriot Act.
with a what?
With the Patriot Act.
Oh, yeah, it started with
It,
the Patriot Act,
it started with the
and
Patriot Act. Essentially, our intelligence services could listen to any fucking phone call they fucking wanted outside of the US, but they could not spy within the boundaries of the US.
right.
But what happens when a known terrorist in Afghanistan calls a number in Louisiana?
Well,
Do you,
they're not supposed they're not
the
supposed
way,
to
yeah,
they're not supposed to be able to identify the guy in Louisiana, but of
right.
course they did, and then they spied on him.
Well, the thing is, before the Patriot Act, they had to hang up.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't listen to the guy in Louisiana. What the Patriot Act did, which is not wrong per se, was that they could continue to listen, but they could not make it public, and they had to mask the American side because theoretically they cannot spy on him.
Right, and they had to get a warrant from the FISA judges.
Yes.
Um, and in the case of during the Obama administration, one of the
They have used
FISA
the system.
judges, one of the
Yes.
FISA judges, was personal friends with FBI lawyer Lisa Page and her lover, um, whatever the fuck his name was, the red-faced guy,
Peter Strzok
Peter Strzok.
and
And
with Eric Holder. He was actually a close friend of Eric Holder's.
right, so that judge, whose first name was Rudolph
Rudy Contreras.
Contreras, Contreras was removed from the FISA court, and the only people who have the power to remove him is the Supreme Court. And so he was removed without any explanation given, which was their way of admitting that this guy was a rotten apple.
Rudy Contreras, a graduate of Howard University, which is the biggest
Exactly.
factory of assholes ever.
And he was a traffic judge before.
Oh, and before that, he was a real estate attorney. You know, the guy that sits at closings,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all he did.
Yep.
And then he had a stint as a traffic judge, and then Eric Holder put him in the FISA court.
Mm-hmm.
And he went straight from being a nobody with very limited legal experience in, you know, you know how much experience you need to do a regular bank closing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's cookie cutter law. And he put him there, and he's the guy who forced the plea out of General Flynn.
Mm-hmm.
That's how come I got to know him. And he's the guy who 6 days after that recused himself and went into the boondocks and eventually was removed. An asshole from here to Timbuktu.
Well, basically, what he did was he just signed whatever was brought to him by the
And
FBI and any other member of the intelligence community.
whatever Eric Holder told him to sign, he signed. He would have signed his own death warrant if asked.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, the FISA court. That was supposed to be a warranty. Nothing better than a secret court working like a star chamber to give me peace of mind in allowing the CIA to investigate people within the boundaries of the US. It's collective idiocy.
Well, also, whenever people tell you that it's not possible for the system to be abused, that's when you have to really get, you have to really prick up your ears, because they said that about the oil for food program in Iraq. It can't possibly be abused. And it's like, yeah, except for everybody involved was stuffing their pockets, and
Yeah,
Saddam Hussein was buying whatever he wanted.
yeah, down to Obama's house in Chicago.
Sure, sure.
One day, people are going to realize who Tony Resco really was and who he was representing.
Who what?
Who Tony Resco
Yeah,
really was and who was he representing
yeah,
in Chicago. Crying out fucking
yeah.
out. Everybody is looking at birds and not at the real problems. But in any case, I remember having serious discussions with a congressman here in Florida because he was arguing for the Patriot Act, and I was saying, this is bullshit. You're going to regret this. And he says, but we need this. Yes, we need it like a gun pointed at our heads. You're assuming that everybody involved in the administration of this is going to be honest. And experience tells me they won't. When
No,
the administration changes, we're going to be in deep shit because you are handing them the tools for them to hang you. And they did. And when all of these apparatus fell into the hands of Democrats, they didn't give a flying fuck. They stuffed the FISA courts with subservient little assholes who knew nothing about the law and would do whatever they were asked to do. And then they used powers that were to be used exceptionally. For instance, you are investigating a chap in the U.S. and you suspect he might be having contacts with Al Qaeda, so you go to a judge, you give him sufficient evidence, and the judge authorizes you to unmask, that is, to
mhm.
unredact his name, and you get to see the conversation with the Al Qaeda guy. That's not what they did.
No.
And in the case of Gerald Field, what they unmasked were conversations that between an American uh, official and an ambassador and many others.
Also, what people need to remember is the FISA court rotated. So
Yes.
if you came to the FISA court with a request with a warrant, you would get a different judge depending on each judge sat there for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
And in the case of Rudy Contreras, they would just wait until it was Rudy's turn to sit again, and then they would bring
cut them all.
Yep.
He cut them all. What are the odds? And by the way, there are other problems in national security. When these fucking assholes make public the phone calls with the Russian ambassador, which, by the way, I hope in the next shoe to drop from the centipede, we have the full transcripts of those calls so that people realize what big ball of nothing they were. But the thing is, by releasing that information, you just told the Russian ambassador that you could listen into his calls.
Of
How
course.
long do you think those phones lasted?
Well, exactly. I mean, it's like when I forgot
When
his
when
name.
when
Patrick
they took
Leahy. When
Yeah,
Patrick Leahy announced that we were listening to Osama bin Laden
satellite phone.
through his satellite phone,
Son of a bitch.
or what the hell was her name? The senator from California who got senile and had a Chinese spy driving her, Feinstein.
Oh, Beijing Diane.
When Feinstein was mayor of New York, mayor of
Hmm.
San Francisco,
San Francisco. Yeah.
A serial killer called the Night Stalker left Southern California, which is his usual murdering grounds, and he went to San Francisco. This guy had a pair of shoes, only one of which had been sold in California, and it was an aerobic shoe, and it had a unique pattern. And his shoe prints were found at almost every murder here in Southern California, and they were found in San Francisco. So Dianne Feinstein announced it at a press conference. He wears this type of shoe, and we have his shoe prints, and he uses a 25 caliber pistol. So the Night Stalker put his shoes and his pistol in a bag and threw it off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Sometimes you wonder if they do it on purpose, because nobody is that stupid.
What I've come to realize about politicians, and especially Democratic politicians, is a hell of a lot of them are vindictive, and whatever they do, they're getting back at someone for some reason. They're vindictive to the point where they don't care if and how many people die as a result of their actions. It's and especially leftists. Leftists will argue that if it's a leftist saying that in order to make an omelet you have to break some eggs, and so to the leftist politician, if people die, then that's just what has to happen.
Yeah. It's an unavoidable consequence.
Yeah.
No, they're really sick bastards. Let me, just we're talking about these bastards. I'm going to show you a little bit from one of our friends talking at the conference I just attended in DC, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But he's talking about some of these things, and I think it's very apropos to do it at this stage of the game. And by the way, people, I haven't told you anything yet about the money, but yes, we fucking need it. And the Odyssey thing, people are having trouble figuring it out. So please remember to drop a buck at quadverum.com/support us. That one over there. And by all means, if you can, and if you're watching us on X, subscribe to at the Brother Lie. You're going to get some additional stuff, but more importantly, you're going to be helping us do these programs. And let me put this here. Does it sound okay for this thing? Yes.
So maybe some of you didn't know me, but now maybe some of you know me a little bit.
Turn up the volume.
In the middle of being just incredibly persecuted.
That's as high as I can hear it.
By my own government.
As I can put it.
By elements of my own government. I stood with Ellie Gold. I don't know, maybe it was 7 years ago. It was right in the middle of all that, right? And I looked around, and I have fought on many battlefields, killed people, saved people, tried to do, my part to be a good soldier, to be a good citizen around the world for many places, many people, many countries, many nations. and only to return to my own country and find something that was so incredibly subversive, right? But I knew because I'm a student of history, right? And Ambassador, you mentioned it's like we're 1,100 years old. Or I talked about Egypt, where I stood in a place that was over 4,000 years old. And I've been around the world and seen different things and experienced so much in my life. And I knew that if there's something that I experienced in my life about looking back, is that to learn from what has happened in the past. So when we move forward, we can move forward in a much different way, because the changes in the world are happening so rapidly now. I said last night to a friend of mine that in post World War II, in 1950 was the first time that they decided to count how many people actually lived in the United States of America. It's our first census that we took to actually count the number of people in our country, 1950. And at that time, we had around 150 million people in the United States of America. When we did it again, when we counted again, which was in 2010, we almost doubled. So in the previous 200 years of existence, where we came to 150 million, we almost doubled in a period of about 70 years, right? I mean, just an incredible amount of people, right? And when I look at just two nations on the planet, China and India, they represent a third of the population of the planet. It is incredibly complex. It is incredibly, there's all kinds of conflicts. I am a huge fan, and I don't know, the foreign minister is still here, and I know very, very diplomatic, and rightly so, response, about Kurdistan, and should Kurdistan be its own nation state? It's a country with a great population. It's got the resources. It has a government. It has all the structures of what could be. I mean, in our lifetime, ask Czechoslovakia, ask Yugoslavia. Okay, so I'm a fan of looking at the world and saying that why shouldn't something be done, right? In a positive way. In a positive way. It's not just about Kurdistan, but it's about how we now I am speaking as an American. How does America want to see itself? In 1938, there was a study. In 1938, there was a study by a great historian, and he studied seven civilizations in the history of the world, right? Going back to Mesopotamian Empire, certainly the Athenian Empire, Roman Empire, the British Empire. And he studied all these different, Ottoman Empire, studied all these different empires and looked at the rise and fall, the indicators of when those empires collapsed, right? And what caused them to collapse. The average amount of time for those empires was 250 years. 250 years. We are right now at our 249th and 6-month mark. Okay? And over my dead body will this country collapse. Okay? So if, and that's why I said at the very beginning of these remarks, if you get a little taste of me, I'm very relentless about America, because I know what I've seen across the world and around the world. I've had some great conversations and some great insights today. I mean, wonderful, wonderful, powerful insights. And this is a give and take. This isn't give and take. I've been married for a long time, right? I mean, it's a give and take, right? It's like a relationship, a long-term relationship. It's like Donald Trump, right? President Trump. I don't have to agree with everything. I don't agree with everything he says, right? I mean, we are in a place now where we should argue, once, sort of in the room, right? Inside the room, we argue and we debate and we have these very brutally honest conversations, right? And if you're a leader, like as I look at, and I've studied our founders, one of the things that's I get up in the morning and I don't go practice my golf game, I read things like executive orders or I read history books, right? So I've studied our founding fathers of this country, of the United States of America. I've read the Federalist Papers that we have, read our Constitution. I've read the Bible. I've read the Quran. I've read all these different things because that's what fascinates me. But what it has done for me, it has sort of solidified in my mind, is what is great, what is good about this country, about the United States of America. Because as ugly as the warts are that we are facing right now, and I could see them. I mean, I was at the fulcrum of it. This week, my name is all over the media again. It's been all over the media for years. I've been called an anti-Semite. I've been called a Jew lover. I've been called, racist. I've been called every single a traitor, every single name in the book. But it's like my mother taught me. My mother taught me, sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never hurt you. Okay? And that's a very, very important thing to remember. It's a very important piece of counsel because we have to stand up for what we believe in. We have to stand up for what we believe in. When we're placed into these diplomatic positions and we're placed into these governmental roles, yes, if you're not the prime minister or the president or the king or the whatever, you've got to follow whatever it is that got them there, right? If it's a really democratically elected leader, because a lot of people go, like I said earlier today, for those that were listening, if you won by 98% just because you go the 2%, right? It's a joke. Right? It's a joke. When somebody says, they won by 98% in this country, no way. That's not a democratic system. That's where a democratic system, and ours is a constitutional republic. We're not a democratic republic. We're a constitutional republic based on a document that has stood the test of time, will stand the test of time. When I think about our founders, what our founders did was they gave us, in my DNA, in the very skin in the blood that flows through my veins, they gave us two things. And I learned this as a kid, as a young child, and I learned this as a soldier and as a leader. They gave us two things. They gave us courage and they gave us accountability. Because they themselves, standing up at that time to the greatest Navy, the greatest Army in the history of the world, an empire, right? That was at the top of the heap. They stood up and they said, we're not going to take it. And you know what it was all about? It was actually about religious liberty. Well, it was actually about religious liberty, which is an interesting sidebar. The second thing that they showed us and they gave us was the idea of accountability. Accountability. Because every single one of them, and I've actually read some of their diaries and some of their letters to their wives back home when they were in different places and they were debating each other. It's fascinating. Or to their sons and daughters. And they would write letters home because at that time that's how they did it because they didn't have iPhones. And they would talk about how they held themselves to such a high level of accountability that they were willing and they knew that were they caught doing the things that they did, they would be hung or shot, right? Or mercilessly tortured. They were willing to give their very lives and everything, like we say, their treasure, everything, right? To something that was so much bigger than them. Last thing, and I'll finish on, is our First Amendment, our very First Amendment. It has 5 parts, okay, in our Bill of Rights. This is really important because this is where it began. 1500s, 1600s, the Crusades, fighting against, at that time, the emergence of a gigantic empire. Right? The longest lasting empire in the history of the world is the Ottoman Empire, almost 1,400 years. So we had a guy in 1630 standing on the docks of England. His name is Winthrop. He became the first mayor of Boston, for anybody that's ever been up to Boston, Massachusetts. This is well before the United States became anything. And he stood on that dock and he talked to his congregation, they were getting ready to get on these ships because they were being persecuted. They were told, if you want to go to the colonies, go to the colonies. Get the heck out of here. You're not going to be able to do what you want to do. You're practicing, a religion that's, anathema to the king, right? So he gave one of the greatest speeches, and I encourage you to look it up. Winthrop is his name, and he gave this sermon in 1630. And during that sermon, he talked about we are in search of a city on a hill. He talked about that. He actually stated it, city on a hill, right? Like a beacon of hope, as I think Adam talked about and others talked about, a beacon of hope. He also coined the term, we are in search of a New England. I'm from New England, I'm from Rhode Island. But he used that term, we are in search of a New England, okay? That's 1630. Fast forward another, 100, I'm not a math major, so another 150 years or whatever. So now where we have these founders who are gathering, and they didn't get together in a one-day conference or a 3-day weekend. They talked about this for a couple of decades, okay? It's fascinating. And then when it came to the time where we then were going to go to war, we were going to sacrifice everything, right? They didn't know what the outcome was going to be. But what they taught us was they taught us those two things, courage and accountability. And that's my message to you. Be accountable for who you are and what you do, wherever it is. And I know right now, we're live streaming right now. I think we're just over 200,000 right now. So, I know what I'm trying to achieve personally. And don't think for a second that you got to be inside the government to have a difference or to make a difference. You don't, believe me. All this stuff that's going on right now is, it's happening for a variety of reasons, okay? Because there are many people that are willing to stand up and demonstrate a level of courage and commitment, right? And sort of stick to it in this, right? The discipline to do the right thing. Again, inside government, the diplomacy aspects of what you have to do to follow a king, a prime minister, a president, or whatever, I understand all that. But my thing as a military leader, a former military leader, I would cherish the young officer or the young sergeant who in a room when we were about to make a decision that was going to result in the life or death of men and women on the battlefield, I would cherish somebody who would say, damn, sir, that's a stupid decision. All right, that's a dumb decision. Because I would say, hey, I'm about to make this decision. Are we all on board? Because it's going to be tough. And when some young person, because nobody around the people that you choose to have around you, don't choose them in your likeness. Choose them in a way that that they're going to help you, because it's not about you. It's about the direction. From my perspective, it's about the direction of the United States of America, and that we are able to get at least another 250 years out of this experiment. Okay? And if we're able to do that, and I do honestly believe that we can do that, it will come with great sacrifice. Great sacrifice. We're not going to solve, global warming or climate change or all the conflicts around the world. We're not. But what we can do is we can have the courage, and we can learn. You can learn to be, courageous. Fear is something that we all live with on a daily basis. I know it. I have felt it. But when we can get to a place where we can control it a little bit, and that's the fear to say something, to worry about, well, am I going to say something? Am I going to upset somebody? Upset somebody, right? Because you know what you believe. You know what you feel in your heart. And to me, that's a part of the purpose of what we're doing, and why, because we really, and Ellie was great to point out Melissa. There's other members of our team here too, but we put this thing together in a very short fashion, and it achieved essentially what I wanted it to achieve, which was to just basically bring some people together, I had people like Tulsi and Mark lined up Yeah.
I love it
No,
too,
I
man.
see him in here now, but I was talking last night about chaos and complexity, right? I mean, that's like, I don't know whether that's my DNA, but I'm designed for that. I just want to say to finish for all the ambassadors and the foreign ministers, other ministers that are here, the people that came here, that I know your time is extremely valuable, and I appreciate it. I know our team appreciates it. Your time, your remarks, your presence matters more than anything else. So thank you so much for that. The next step, okay, and I'll just the next step is, this is sort of an umbrella. This conference here, we kind of covered a whole bunch of things. You get 5 minutes to talk about 1,100 years, right? I mean, so, but this is designed this way. Okay, because the way my mind works. So this is sort of an umbrella conversation, because one of the things that I will do is I will drive a conversation in this town, right? And we can do this now in a much different way, because I'm not fighting. I'm not fighting against the censorship. I'm not fighting against, even though I have still been here, but it would just been uglier that I had the police out the door waiting for me, right? I mean, that's what we were facing in this country. And I tell people, I remind people, had Donald J. Trump not been elected president of the United States, they were going to put him in jail on the 26th of November of last year. Okay. That judge, right, for the foolishness and the craziness that these people were attacking this man, never mind trying to put a bullet through his head. Right. So we're ugly. Okay. The baby is ugly here in this country, and that's okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to work our way through this as a democracy, as a citizenry, as people who are responsible for the future of our country. These people in Capitol Hill, people down at the White House, they are temporary. What is permanent is the American people and what I have described. It's in our blood. Okay, and that's all Americans, right? Not just white Americans or black Americans. If you're purple with pink polka dots, if you believe in this country and you believe in what it stands for, then I know that we'll get another 250 years out of this. So we will follow up with all of you, and this is all. We have all the video. If people want it, we'll get it on websites and we have photos. But we are going to. I'm going to continue this, and I'm going to continue on certain issues that some of those were raised today, and we definitely appreciate your feedback. So anyway, be safe. God bless you all, and thank you so much for attending.
Hello there.
Hey,
You know what my favorite part is, right?
what?
When he says we were going to have Mario and Tulsi here, but they had to skip because they're getting busy. In what's going on in the White House. That was the press conference version number 2, and I love it.
Mm,
And what can I say? I love it too. He's absolutely right on a number of things, though he got some specifics mixed up with Winthrop, but it's okay because the core of the matter is, I believe, absolutely correct. This is what's starting now.
mm,
For all we've done in 6 months, taking a line from Ronald Reagan, you ain't seen nothing yet.
mm.
And I don't know if you noticed a few things, but something that you and I have always said, people can have discussions and have heated discussions and still work together. We don't have to agree on everything. I don't have to agree with everything from Dust to support him, do you?
Well, I've never been one to even get in heated discussions. I've never understood when I'm discussing things with people and they start yelling at me, and it's like, why are you doing that? I can hear you just as well if you don't yell at me. And I've had to terminate a lot of conversations because people can't control their emotions. And, I used to have fights with various girlfriends and they would get upset because I wasn't yelling. And it's like, I'm not a yeller. If we're going to have a disagreement, I'm not going to start yelling at you. Do you want me to throw things against the wall? I mean, what's wrong with you?
But that means you don't care.
I can't change who I am. I'm not going to change who I am. And I see all these interviews on the street with leftists, and they're asked questions, and after about 2 or 3 questions, they tend to get violent. And it's like, I mean, this is illness. This is not an ideology. This is an illness. There was an anti-abortion group, and they were wearing like priest gowns. They weren't black. They were like, Protestant pastor gowns, like white and wine colored, and some woman approached them. She was pro-choice, and she had this zany grin, and she was asking them, well, what about this? What about that? And they could answer every question, so she started insulting them with profanity. So they started singing. So she jumped up and grabbed their banner and pulled it down, and she ran across the street and into a drugstore. This was in a blue state. And the people in the drugstore frog marched her out and made her give the banner back to the people protesting. So that's a big change.
Yeah. Well, when I was coming out of this conference with a couple of friends that I'm not going to name, oh, what the hell! One of them is in the next video with me, and we were confronted with pro-Palestinian hysterical women with the Palestinian rag around them. And they started screaming at me, and I just stood up for a second, looked at them, and screamed, "I'm Israel High, motherfucker." You want a larger explanation? And we kept on walking, and a little while later, they started screaming again. But when I scream, it's usually the end of the discussion.
Well, what's funny about all of this is that they've been marching now for however long, and we're down to the last few Hamas left.
Can count him. And did you hear Trump this week?
Yeah, he said they don't want to make a deal; they just want to die. So
we're gonna have to do it.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do it. And people say, what will be the next move? The next move is to kill the rest of the remainings of Hamas. What the hell?
Well, did you see all those creeps in their tunnel showing off all their food?
Yeah.
I mean,
because the people are hungry.
Well, not Hamas. They were eating foods that haven't even been shipped into Gaza. They have their own private, food tunnels. Yeah, that was really weird. It was like, why would you do this? Why would you be showing off your bananas? What had you intended to accomplish here?
We're talking about a tribe of mandrills.
Yeah.
And trying to find a logical explanation to what a band of rabid monkeys do, it's not going to get us anywhere. They're rabid monkeys, period. And they do this because they think, I have food. I can wait all night.
Yeah.
That's the end of it.
Well, what's really fascinating, okay, when the Bedouins and the Druze were going at it, of course, the press said this is the end of everything. It's all Trump's fault. Then it stopped. look at Syria. Syria, the dictatorship of Syria began with the first Assad, and then it continued with the second Assad. So they were under a dictatorship for what, half a century?
Yeah, and there was a few years before the first Assad, because the first Assad was not the first one of the Ba'ath Party. He was like the third. But essentially, since 1953, they've been in a dictatorship controlled by the Ba'ath Party until
Okay,
just a few
so
months ago.
70 odd years.
72 years.
The only major issue is the Druze and the Bedouins, and that's not even, I mean, yes, people were killed, but it's not a major issue. It's not a nationwide issue. For the most
No.
part, things are going smoothly, and the Saudis have sent their investors. There was this period where people were saying, "Why is Trump still supporting I guess Sakar? What's his real name? Al Jilani,
Ashraf.
Al Shara." Okay, Trump is supporting him because he's doing the best he can. As you pointed out, he doesn't have enough power to
No.
fully stamp out whomever, but it's going to happen, and Syria will rebuild, and we'll see where they go. My guess
Yeah,
is
I was with the representative of Rojava yes, the day before yesterday. And they're trying. They're trying their fucking best. It's far from over.
it's far from over, and
Far from over.
if the guy in charge wants a Trump Tower in Damascus, it's not going to be another theocratic dictatorship. They're not going to have a Trump Tower in Damascus if it's going to be a theocratic dictatorship. So
Yeah.
it's far from over, and these are people who've been at each other's throats for millennia, and you know,
I think we discussed this last week, but the Bedouins and the Druze are, have been in conflict for 1,000 years now.
yeah,
Is the and this is a conflict that is repeated in every region of the world between nomadic tribes and farmers. Nomadic tribes and farmers. We had that problem in the U.S., in Texas. We had that problem when people brought sheep farming to some parts of the U.S. and were literally shut out of the place because there was a conflict in the use of land. And that's not going to stop on a dime just because Assad is no longer. As a matter of fact, one of the things that kept these conflicts within bounds was Assad's repression.
mhm.
He would just kill, anybody who stepped out of line, and that was it. So people kind of behaved under the boot. Once you remove the boot, all millennial grievances are coming to the surface, and there is no powerful central government that can quash them.
Well,
So you're going to have problems.
in the movie Zulu, the British have a Boer advisor. In Rorke's Drift was where 154 British stopped several thousand Zulus, and they're asking the Boer why he's there, and he says because the Zulus are enemies of my blood, and it's just like, what a stupid statement. Enemies of your blood. So you're born, you grow up, and then you start fighting with Zulus, even though just because it's in your blood. That's what you do. You're a Boer. And okay, Boers were farmers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and the Zulus were nomadic.
By the way, the white farmers that are being killed by the South African government as we speak.
Yeah, exactly. So, but enemies of my blood, it's just like, I don't know. Nothing's changed since 1879. Um,
No, no, nothing at all. Nothing at all. And of course, the Zulu weren't indigenous to the area anyway. They were brought in by the Brits. But even today, I mean, the roles may have reverted, and now is the Zulu, not quite the Zulu, but the idea is there, killing the Boer. Why? Because that's what we do.
because that's
And
what we
people,
do. Yeah, and
and people want to extrapolate it to societal problems in Washington State. Give me a fucking break.
well, or they want to ride their motorcycles through all these countries to prove that there's no such thing as real evil. Then they end up barbecued or decapitated or whatever, and I just can't feel sorry for them. You know, why in God's name? I
No,
mean, when you have the natives of the country saying you're an idiot for doing this, and you say, "Oh, what do you know?" Well, what do I know? I'm a fucking Zulu. What do you mean? What do I know?
but anyway, Syria is going to be a mess for a while.
It's going to be a what?
A mess for a while. I happen to think that if left to their own devices, they'll end up like a sort of confederation
Yeah,
with the central government in Damascus and regional governments in Latakia,
yeah.
Rojava, the Druze Mountains, and the Bedouins, and maybe two more. I think it's going to happen. It's just going to take time. Uh, every now and then, there's going to be a group going overboard. The central government is not even strong enough to send in forces to subdue them,
Well,
and we end up having little dance steps, like asking Israel for help, and then decrying Israel's actions, withdrawing the Syrian forces, and then the Druze take revenge on the Bedouins. So you have to bring in the Syrian forces because Bedouins from all the country are going in to avenge their brethren. It, this could go on forever. It could end in 1 year. Hopefully the latter. But
well,
it's going to take a lot of work.
one of the things that the Iranian mullahs did was to murder large numbers of their own co-religionists, the Shia Muslims, and then frame the Sunnis for it. And
Yeah,
then the Sunnis, or sorry, then the Shia would rise up against the Sunnis. And
yeah,
so anytime there was it looked like, there was any sort of peace breaking out anywhere in the Middle East, the mullahs would get in the middle of it and start murdering people. And
yeah.
when the mullahs are finally gone, and okay, Iran isn't in the news anymore, but there's still fighting going on.
Oh,
There's still
there is increasing fighting going on.
exactly. Um, there's going to be regime change.
Yesterday they killed another general. Uh,
Yeah,
the mullahs are done. They're
the
cooked. They're
mullahs are
done.
done, and
It's only a matter of weeks.
yeah,
Uh,
today the Baluchis rose up,
yeah,
and they have artillery. Somebody gave them artillery. I wonder who.
imagine that.
Yeah. So
And I bet you 10 to 1 that the Arabs in the southeast, in the southwest, are going to
yeah.
suddenly find a few weapons of their choice. It's going to happen. They are on the way out. What the hell is going to happen there? I have no idea. I know that the little Shah is trying to become the power broker in there. Uh, I know that he is trying to siphon army divisions out of the mullahs, and he's probably the only person in the world with authority to do that. Uh, but by all means, he's not the only actor, and it's going to be chaotic. When the mullahs fall, there's going to be a time of chaos and death.
See, this is what's interesting. Syria, of all places, Assad fell, and the government stayed in place. The ones who had blood on their hands ended up on the wrong end of a crane boom, but for the most part, the government stayed in place. In other countries, ranging from Cuba to Iraq to wherever, the people go wild and they smash everything. And then they have to start over. And it's like, I know you were happy, but okay, in Cuba, for example, they had this gigantic income coming from, casinos. And all the peasants went into the casinos and smashed everything in sight. The government didn't even have to outlaw it because by the time the government...
The government had a policy of destroying the casinos.
They were already gone by the time the government took over.
They entered Havana with the slogan of destroying the casinos and the whorehouses. Now, the reason I believe they destroyed the whorehouses is because they hated competition. They turned the entire country into one big whorehouse.
Oh,
and
yeah.
every poor woman in the island is being farmed out to tourists.
Yeah.
What can I tell you? And they didn't like the mafia running the casinos because they hate competition. And they turned the entire country into a casino of sorts. But yeah, you are generally right. And remember, in Cuba, there are a lot of urban legends, including Guevara and all that jazz. But the fact is that Batista, who was a socialist, essentially, Batista's army turned on him
Mm-hmm.
and put itself at the orders of Fidel.
Mm-hmm.
But when they went out looking for Fidel to tell him, they couldn't find him, but they bumped into Guevara, and then they spent, what was it, 2 weeks trying to find Fidel, who was hiding, and they couldn't find him. And Fidel barely caught up with them as they entered Havana. So it was the same army, it was the same repressive apparatus. And yeah, then came the purges. What in Cuba they called el paredón, putting people against the wall and shooting them. And they killed a shit ton of people. And then came the purge of the revolutionaries, who were
Yep.
a wide coalition. So they were, guys from Acción Católica. They were killed. Guys who were, liberals in the 19th century sense, they were killed. They killed a shit ton until only the great kahuna stands. In other places, it was far worse. But sometimes, take a look at the Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an oddity. That's why I'm fascinated by it. Of a very peaceful, change of power.
Well, if you think about it, Czechs have a long history of intellectualism,
Yes, they
of
do.
writing and art and photography and all of that. And
Science.
science, yeah. I mean, I would never take part. I would never take part in a revolution against the California government just because my goal is to get the hell out, and I don't want to.
You're way past that.
Yeah, I don't want to fight the National Guard. But if I did, if I found myself walking through Sacramento, I would make sure that everything stayed where it was, how it was.
So we don't have to rebuild it.
Well, so A, we don't have to rebuild it, and B, we find all the documents we need.
Yeah. It would probably be Gruesom's minions trying to burn everything down so you don't.
Well, exactly. That's what they always do. You get the cable, like the Japanese in Washington after Pearl Harbor. They get the cable, burn all documents, and I don't know. I just
You know one thing before we walk out of Czechoslovakia, the Czechia, because the Czechoslovakia was another one of those weird countries when two peoples who never liked each other were banded together by force, and they managed to get rid of the communists without bloodshed, and then peacefully separated without bloodshed.
Mhm.
They're really an example of how it should be done. And they did something this week that was Václav Havel's kind of dream in a way. And it is the only country that I know of where they decided to prohibit communism and the symbols of communism because they considered them as venomous as Nazism. So if you cannot fly the Nazi flag, there is no reason why you could fly the communist flag.
I
So
agree. I agree.
I totally agree. So it's the only country in Europe where the hammer and sickle and the red flag and the accoutrements of communism have joined those of Nazism. And the explanation in the law is what I've been saying for the longest time, and I believe you too, that there is essentially no difference between Nazism and communism.
Yeah. Um,
That they're essentially the same shit.
it's really eerie. I study First World War aircraft, but I'm interested in particular individual aircraft from different era. And the Russian Tu-95 bomber had always fascinated me because it's this gigantic swept wing turboprop with double propellers. It's apparently the loudest aircraft ever built, and I enjoyed it because it had never been used in combat. And then the Russians started using it against Ukrainian civilians, and Ukrainians have destroyed almost all the Tu-95s in existence, and they will never be replaced. Soon, the only Tu-95s left will be the Ukrainians have one at an outdoor exhibit from the Soviet era, and I think the Indians have a couple because the Indians used to use them, but it's going to be gone, and it's a shame because I was able to enjoy the aircraft because it had never been used. It had never been used in combat until the Russo-Ukraine war, and it's used in combat strictly against civilians, which it's war crimes. And the Russians have they've done so much harm to their own image that now I can't watch movies with and about Russians. There's a movie out now called Megan 2.0, and it's about two girl robots who fight each other. And the older one is played by a Ukrainian, and she used to be a model, and now she's an actress, speaks fluent Russian, and she's turned down every single role where she's required to play a Russian. She said, "I can't do it. I can't do it. It's not possible." It's, and I feel the same way. I there's movies where you see the heroic Russian spy working with the Americans, and
the Rand Corporation used to put them out like cookies during World War II because they were selling the notion that the Russians were our allies.
Uncle Joe,
and
remember?
Yeah, and there was one about Natasha, the what was it? Kind of like a guerrilla fighter,
Yeah, she was a
woman,
sniper. She was a sniper.
the sniper in Stalingrad,
Yep.
and I can't watch them anymore.
No, either.
In,
And
and by the way, they sold me to. You see, part of the problem, part of the problem with the development of communistic ideas, because people didn't necessarily join the Communist Party, but they adopted many communist ideals in South America to fight against the Nazi military governments there. But I believe that part of the problem was the American propaganda in favor of the Russians during World War II. That made it palatable. It gave it the imprimatur. It was the Rand Corporation telling us that the Russians were good people fighting for freedom.
well, when the Americans and the Russians met at the Elbe River, there's all these newscasts of okay, Russians. I don't know if they do this anymore, but men used to kiss on the mouth. So there's all these footage of Russian officers kissing American officers, men to man, and they're exchanging their caps and oh, we're all buddies. And then, the second the war was over.
And yeah, I was 30 years old before I saw my first picture of the Red Army and the and the Wehrmacht celebrating the rape of Poland in Brest.
Mhm. Mhm.
And anybody who said that Hitler was an ally of Stalin who met derision, because how can you say that? They were allies of the U.S. They fought together with America in that war.
Well,
Bullshit!
I saw something about on Netflix when the Russians went into Poland in '39. They carried out a massive massacre of Polish army officers in the Katyn forest. But they also
Oh yes,
shipped thousands and thousands of them to gulags
yes.
in
Gaddafi first
Siberia,
war was it like 30,000 they killed?
something like that. And this movie I saw was based on a real story. 3 Polish army officers, a Russian mafioso, and an American who'd been living in Russia. They all escaped from the gulag, and they walked to India from Siberia.
Well, if you were forced to Gulag, you would walk through Antarctica to get the fuck out of there.
That's unbelievable. They came to Mongolia. They were going to initially go to Mongolia, and then they saw that the border said, "Welcome to the People's Republic of Mongolia," and they had so they did a detour around Mongolia.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that Mongolia weren't all only communists; they were communist allied with the Soviet Union instead of China.
Yep. Yep.
By the way, Terry is saying here, hell, Patton said we fought the wrong enemy. Patton was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Patton was right. Period. End of story.
I mean,
And Truman was a fucking moron.
okay, where the fuck was it? After FDR died, Truman became president, and they had the meeting of the big 3: Churchill, Stalin, and Truman. Yalta.
Yalta, yes.
At Yalta, we basically agreed with the Soviets for how we were going to carve up Europe
Yep.
after the war. We shouldn't
The
have done that.
areas of influence. We should
Yep.
have never done that. It was a betrayal. And we fucked Hungary. I mean, there's very little that you could do with the partition of Germany. Because except that we fucked the Russians because we included France among the allies.
Mhm.
The only reason that bunch of fucking fascists suddenly became triumphant allies is because we needed more numbers so that the Russian portion of Germany would be smaller.
Mm.
I'm surprised we didn't use Italy too. But it was a mistake. It was a sellout. It was a sellout. We sold the Poles and the Hungarians and the Romanians down the river.
Well, okay. After the Romanov dynasty fell, so many of these countries declared their independence, and they were independent for, say, the period of the Kerensky administration in Russia. And then as soon as the communists took over, boom, they became
Including Ukraine, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. And
had a short-lived republic there.
I follow the Russo-Ukraine war still, but I don't watch, Russian news or anything anymore. But I remember a while back, must be a year ago now, the head propagandist, whatever his name is, his son lives in London and his daughter lives in Italy, I believe. She's a banker and he's a model. His favorite place is Lake Como in Switzerland.
Lake Como, not Cuomo. Cuomo is a different ship.
Lake Como. Okay.
Como. COMO.
But
oh God, that's such a one. It's one of my favorite places too.
He was talking about how the Russians had landed on Normandy and liberated Europe.
Yeah.
And here they are. Here the Russians are just eating it all up. The Russians landed in Normandy. They made a hook all the way around Africa and came around and landed in Europe.
Amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's. Having Truman at the end of by the way, having Roosevelt, who played the non-intervention act until 41,
Mm-hmm.
when we were attacked and he had no choice, and then Truman, who fucked up the end of the war like nobody I can even think of. And then he fucked it up in Korea again. Because both Patton and MacArthur were right.
Mm-hmm.
But, they had to do what a failed haberdasher wanted them to do.
Mm-hmm.
The son of a bitch couldn't sell hats in Independence, but all of a sudden he was making these decisions. Half of the shit that we've gone through the Cold War and all the just is attributable only to the Democrats' admiration for Hitler and Mussolini,
Mm-hmm.
and their refusal to recognize the evil of communism in time. And we're still paying for that.
One of my favorite cartoonists was a guy named George Booth, and George Booth wrote for the New Yorker. And I didn't know anything about him, and I found a book of it's a collection of his best cartoons. George Booth fought in the Pacific as a Marine in World War II, and then he went to an art college, and then he was recalled to active duty for the Korean War in 1950. And that was the thing that this is another thing that Democrats keep doing. We stripped all our assets out of the Pacific area, and we said that if the North Koreans invaded the South Korea, the South Koreans would be on their own. We wouldn't intervene.
Mm.
So the North Koreans invaded South Korea, and then of course we had to intervene, and we had nothing there. We were using World War II era equipment, and then we had to start redrafting World War II veterans who'd all been told that they'd already done their duty fighting for their country. And the whole thing was a catastrophe. We had no idea that 1 million Chinese were about to race into the country once we pushed the North Koreans back to the 38th parallel. We were taken by surprise that 1 million Chinese had suddenly, I mean, 1 million Chinese aren't hiding behind rocks and all just jump out. They gather. And so they pushed the UN troops all the way down to Busan in the south of Korea. And it was MacArthur who carried out the Incheon landing. That it was absolutely brilliant. But
and pushed them all the way to the Chinese border and was ready to go to Beijing. And he would have made it.
Truman insisted that this was a police action, and in order to make sure that people didn't think it was serious, he withheld all our best equipment. So our men were sacrificed fighting with World War II era equipment. And finally, Truman okayed the shipment of jet fighters, the F-86 Sabre jet fighter that could fight the Russian MiG-15. But I mean, this is unforgivable stuff.
Yes.
Here he is terrified about his own reputation, and people who were drafted are at war again, and they're fighting, and they're freezing to death at Incheon. I mean, it's just really, it's really astonishing. And give him hell, Harry. It's all fake, like you said. He's a failed haberdasher.
Yes, he's a failed haberdasher and nothing more. And incidentally, we're still fighting that fucking war.
Yeah, we signed an armistice. So it's a ceasefire.
A ceasefire
Since 1953.
With guards ogling each other over the demilitarized zone, with dozens of thousands of American troops permanent. How much did it cost us so far to keep tens of thousands of troops and ships and planes in Korea to protect those fucking bastards who then turn around and vote socialist?
Well, they not only vote socialist, they start putting up signs saying no Americans allowed in their restaurants and clubs.
If you heard General Flynn say how it's in his veins.
Mm-hmm.
It's in mine too, by the way. This is from right after that. No, right before that speech.
No, it's a good picture.
I know, I love it. There is another one that I'll show you later. And why the fuck? If you do love history, if you study American history, you're going to find that having an amoral, corrupt asshole in the White House, if you vote Democrats, is not an anomaly.
No. And they make the same outrageously stupid blunders over and over and over and over again.
Because for them, it's not a blunder, it's an objective.
It's an objective. And it's an objective of complete insanity. Let's whittle the United States down a few pegs. Why? What do you gain by that? You gain world instability. You get a shitty global economy. You get more crime. You get more dictatorships. Why? Why is it an objective? If you sat Obama down and you said, why? If you asked him, why the hell did you do the stuff you did?
Because we need to even the score. Because America has been a force for evil in the world. We've caused so much harm. You have to pay back and allow others to.
Yeah. Rise. Okay. Start giving me examples of all the harm we've done. Come on.
Don't ask me. Ask Obama.
Yeah.
Don't ask me because I don't believe any of that shit. But if you
Oh, he's
want the
done.
examples, just listen to his speech in Cairo.
Oh, sure. Sure.
That is exactly what he thinks. By
Well,
the way, did I have this here?
what?
Oh yes, this is what's left of Obama.
Yeah.
And by the way, when the centipede keeps dropping shoes, you're gonna see this man cry. I don't think he's gonna go to jail.
No, of
I
course
think
not.
I think that our folks, if it was me, I signed the order right now because
But see,
I believe number one that immunity uh, does not extend to criminal acts.
no. The issue is that logistically and um, politically, there's no real possibility that Obama would end up in jail. At the absolute worst, he might end up under house arrest, but there's no way he would end up in jail.
He's not going to jail. I don't even think he's going into house arrest, but
No,
he's going into total discredit
well,
mode.
he's already lost all his influence.
Hmm.
When he came out and he started lecturing black people on how to vote, I was seeing videos of black people.
When we cut off USAID, he lost a lot of influence.
Well, I saw videos of black people accusing Obama of telling them to get back in place. You stupid N words. That's what I heard black people saying, and
Yeah.
that's a hell of a hell of a different tune they were singing in 2024 than they were singing in
No.
20.
You could say that Obama is almost single-handedly responsible for Trump getting the largest share of the black vote of any
Yeah,
Republican since the 1960s. Son of a bitch.
but
And it makes me upset talking about this asshole. Um, Let me show you the other video. This is one that I did in 2020. You will remember this. And we were talking about precisely the kind of shit that Obama did that is going to surface uh, right now with the centipede's shoes.
To fish for dirt and to try to destroy their ideological and political and bureaucratic adversaries. I did not think that was possible, but sure enough, as soon as General Michael Flynn was tapped by President Trump to be his first national security advisor, I joined the White House, the NSC, and before I knew it, there were 5 investigations launched against me. I'd been in the Pentagon as a civil servant for a dozen years by then, and had a completely spotless record, no security violations. But all of a sudden, 2 administrative investigations, 3 criminal investigations launched against me, and sort of sent me off into this sort of netherland in which to fight these fabricated charges. So I wrote this book because this state of affairs, this corruption, should not exist in the United States. But not only does it exist, it systemically exists. There are a group of hyper-empowered government officials occupying key nodes within the national security bureaucracy and the intelligence community and the law enforcement bureaucracy. Not every job, so I think it's important not to paint with too broad of brushstrokes that the deep state is all of the administrative state. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that there are certain key nodes that are controlled by genuine criminal co-conspirators. And I don't use that term lightly. They're knowingly and willfully subverting U.S. law.
By the way, this is what Bongino found.
Well, I mean, people shouldn't be shocked and surprised because in every institution, okay, in 2006, I was doing research for a book that I had published in 2007, and it was called "Flamethrower Troops of World War One."
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote to the National Archives. Well, actually, no. I got a researcher. I hired a researcher who lived near the archives, and he would go near the archives and he would photograph and Xerox what I needed. And all the information on American flamethrowers of World War One were in the trench warfare section of the ordnance department. So this guy went to look for them, and he contacted me, and he said the entire section, 20 feet of records, has been stolen. There is no record left in the United States, the National Archives. There is no information held by the archives about flamethrowers of World War One. All the blueprints, all the reports, everything has been stolen.
Did anybody check the underwear of Sandy Berger?
Yeah, exactly. I was lucky because I was able to find the information in other institutions that other people hadn't thought of. But somebody went into the National Archives and they carted out 20 shelf feet of documents and gave them to some insane collector who is willing to pay for them. I saw a report that showed original documents, books, etc., and they were turning the pages and photo albums. The albums had been
cutting the engravings.
Yeah, so
cutting the engravings. They do that all the time at the National Archives. You have no idea how many books have been completely cleaned of engravings, and then they sell them for a couple of $100 a piece.
Yeah, so this is why corruption never shocks and surprises me. It never disappoints me either, because I am always prepared to be disappointed by every single person I meet. And because of that, I'm not actually disappointed. So Dan Bongino may be shocked. I'm not shocked because I knew that all of this was going on.
Yeah. But that's the thing. That was my... You know that I wasn't too keen on Dan Bongino for the longest time because I couldn't believe the idiot. He was still defending the indefensible. And now I realize that he did not have the intellectual acumen to realize the depth of this thing. And as a man who had been working in law enforcement, my fellows in law enforcement wouldn't do this. So he couldn't see it. He had blinders on.
Well, see, this is why I have come around to think that choosing Tulsi Gabbard was a brilliant move. Because Tulsi is doing what she's doing. We don't know what her motivation is. Is she doing it for Trump, or is she doing it at revenge?
She, by the way, I don't give a shit. I may incline to the notion that she's doing it out of spite for the asshole.
Exactly. And
you Tulsi don't Gabbard, call her a Russian spy with impunity.
Exactly. And Tulsi Gabbard is very intelligent. She thinks very well on her feet. And I would imagine, I'm not accusing her, but I would imagine she knows everything about corruption. That she's seen it, she knows about it.
She is a Democrat. the daughter of a Democrat state senator in Hawaii.
Exactly.
Don't you think she's seen this shit since she was 4?
Exactly. So I don't want, I don't respect a guy who says law enforcement would never do that. Cops go to prison all the time. Judges go to prison all the time. Prosecutors go to prison all the time. Secret
Right.
Service agents.
The only reason the guy would have said that is because, like I said, he doesn't have the brains, and he's way in over his head, and he works as a guy, uh, uh, you know yapping it off. I should say that in front of a camera on his own, and but now he's in the real place and he's seeing what we have been discussing all the time. I spoke with him in 2019 or 2020. It didn't end well because he was telling me, that I was too far out of left field, that this couldn't have happened, and I was a conspiracist, and he was the experienced insider, and I kept telling him he was being an idiot. Open your eyes. Of course they're doing this. And this, I'm not going to spend 2 hours now because I'd bore you to tears, but you and I have been discussing since 2017 in various ways. This is the largest conspiracy to stop a candidate and then unseat a president in the history of this country, barring the Civil War, of course.
Well, okay, the Civil War, we had a general named George McClellan.
Yes.
George McClellan deliberately lost battles in order to harm Lincoln. And finally, Lincoln fired him.
Removed
then McClellan ran against Lincoln as a peace Democrat. The peace Democrats were freeing Confederate prisoners of war and sneaking them back. I mean, talk about treason.
Those are the assholes, otherwise referred as the Northern Democrats.
Copperheads.
That essentially ended Reconstruction, returned control of the South to the old fucking Democrats, and the freed slaves back to the plantations.
Yeah.
Don't you love it when the Democrats talk about the Jim Crow laws?
Hmm?
I mean, do these people really have no fucking shame?
Well, what they claim is that the Democrats in the past were the Republicans of today, and they've switched.
Yeah.
They've
Bullshit.
switched. And it's like, no, that's not true at all.
No, we're going to deport the illegals back to their country. Who's gonna pick my cotton? Yeah,
exactly.
But then the Republicans of the past. Go fuck yourselves, really. I mean, they're really fucking shameless. There's no other word for it.
Did you see that state senator or whatever the hell she was at the podium saying, if we deport the illegals, who's going to wipe our asses?
What?
Did you see that?
Did you hear Bernie Sanders talking about who's going to clean our toilets?
I've heard that for years, but I've never heard anyone say who's going to wipe our asses. And it made me think, lady, have you hired illegal Mexicans to wipe your butt? Like,
no, her mother's at the home.
Oh, okay. Well, they don't hire illegal aliens at the home. Yes. Those are all like Filipina nurses,
They have to have a nursing certification. They be saying Hunter too. It's true. Hunter Biden came out of hiding long enough to show everybody why everybody thinks he's an asshole. And the only thing he didn't say is, who's going to clean your crack pipe?
Well, also, okay, Hunter's interesting because he was very his cognitive abilities don't seem to have been harmed by his drug abuse. I was surprised at how well spoken he is. But he was defending his father. His father, my father won 8 congressional races and nobody's ever done that before. Yeah, but your father had a completely disgusting, worthless, destructive career. It doesn't matter how many. I mean, and he ran in a state that's like this big. So of course he's going to be elected.
Yeah, and he ran with the Teamsters on his side, who would burn your store or break your legs if you didn't fall in line.
Yeah. No.
Because people forget what the Teamsters did for his first campaign.
Oh, sure. Sure.
I mean, God, fucking mafioso. How was he allowed to get this far? It's shameful. But then again, he's a Democrat,
Well, see,
McClellan was rewarded for his treason.
Yeah. This is, again, we're back to not okay. My brother had a housemate in Las Vegas. Guy was in a lot of trouble. He'd been fired. He was a plumber. He'd been fired. He had no money. He had nowhere to go. Everything. So my brother took him in. He immediately got a job, and then he became a giant asshole. He left stuff all over the house. His room was horrifying. He didn't aim when he used the toilet. And he borrowed money from my brother that he never repaid. And so my brother is still, I won't say he's upset about this, but he's still shocked that this happened. And I'm not shocked by any human depravity. If I took someone in and I caught them stealing from me or whatever, just a door would go down, and I'd say, all right, walk out the front door and go to the sidewalk. I'll pile all your shit up outside on the sidewalk. And then where you go from there, you can live on the sidewalk if you want. I don't mind, but you're never coming in my house again, and we're never going to talk again. And that would be the end of that. I wouldn't. I mean, I've essentially done as much.
I have done that too.
Yes. No,
I'm not gonna go into the details.
No.
But I don't care who the fuck they are. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And once you see more of the depravity, there is no further argument.
No, I called the cops on a guy who was using my credit card, and he called me crying because he was on probation and he's going to go back to prison.
Good.
Well, I said, I can't help you. I had to report this. And unfortunately for him, this all happened in an era where credit cards are cracking down. So Visa worked with the FBI. This guy got nailed for like, what is it? He lived in a different state. So they nailed him for federal.
Oh, federal wire.
That's it. Wire fraud. They nailed him for wire fraud.
Wire fraud. He committed fraud with a credit card in multiple states.
Exactly.
He's going to be cooling heels in a Fed pen for at least 10 years.
That's what happened.
By the way, every time he used the credit card is a new charge.
And he used the credit card a lot. And Visa kept sending me updates on what was going on. And I would just be like, sucks to be you, but I'm sorry. I helped you. I
did the same thing with the son of a bitch who no, I can't give enough details, but the son of a bitch tried to join an organization that I belonged to. I investigated him as part of the process and realized who he was and didn't allow him in. and he found a different place where they weren't so strict. And the next thing I know, he comes to my place and see I got in anyway. I says, "You did you? Okay, I have a pile of shit about this high on you. If you don't disappear and resign from this organization within the next 2 days, I'm going to be talking about that with somebody else." He didn't. He actually tried to mock me by coming to a dinner. So I took my file to a special agent that was a friend of mine that was in corruption cases. And we had a dinner together with a police chap who was in Vice. And I told them what my problem was, and this is what I know of this guy. I'll make the long story short. They did their own investigation, of course, and they found things I didn't find, like he was molesting a 15-year-old as well. Once you find somebody who is morally corrupt, nothing should surprise you anymore. He got 17 years for wire fraud, mortgage fraud, and wire fraud, mortgage fraud, and one more. I can't recall now. And then he got another 10 years consecutive.
Mhm.
And if he ever came out of there and they didn't fuck him to death, he was supposed to register as a sex offender and all that jazz. Uh, if you're going to be that kind of an asshole, try not to piss people off.
Well, what I determined a long time ago was that if people do and say certain things, you no longer have to worry about their welfare.
No,
So if they start stealing your credit card and spending it on software that allows them to make 3D models of their bedroom, shit like that, like just time wasting garbage.
yeah,
And you thought that you were helping them through health crises and things like that, and it was all a lie, then yeah, of course,
I think I know who you're talking about,
yeah,
but
you do.
yeah,
And
you told me this in real time, and
yeah,
and you told me long before this happened, and I actually helped you find
yes,
some things for the little shit. Uh, but yeah, fine. For years, you helped this motherfucker,
yeah,
uh, and spent a considerable amount of money helping him,
yes.
and he repays you by
What
stealing
was
from you. I don't care if he
see
dies trying to pick up the soap in prison.
he ended up he fought off 2 systemic infections
Hmm.
where he was on antibiotic IVs, and so he had to be hospitalized. I was the only person in the world who he had real conversations with, so I talked him through all of that. I bought him new teeth. He had fucked up teeth, so I bought him new teeth. When he recovered from everything, he returned to the person he was before he got sick. And that person was an asshole, a cocky. When he would call me, he would monologue. He wouldn't listen to, I would just sit there listening to him tell me about, he would accidentally spill the beans about all the spending he was doing. And finally, when the shit hit the fan, and he called me and he was crying and begging me to not, do anything. And it was like, this is out of my hands. This is Visa.
Yeah,
Visa's coming after you. They're going to make an example of you.
yeah. That's what you get when you bite the hand that feeds you, asshole.
it was amazing. I made a report here that was going to be sent to his police station. And the young cop says, "Shall we go for elder abuse?" And I said, "Why not?" So he wrote down elder abuse too. Holy shit. It was, and I wasn't even mad at him because it was just so, it was so typical. It was just so typical.
Yeah.
I've never done anything like that to somebody. I've gotten help from people that I didn't ask for, and they offered it, and I appreciated it. If I were offered a home, for Christ's sake, I would take such good care of that home. But people rarely do that. My brother lives next to two elderly people who make their income from renting homes that they own, and the tenants smash everything to pieces, and they're not making any money because they keep having to repair everything. But they're two elderly Jewish people, and they think they're doing a mitzvah by renting to low-income people.
Yep.
And the low-income people are destroying everything inside,
Yeah.
and crapping on the floor, and I don't know. I just
There were times when I left Argentina in conditions that you and I discussed. I was in Brazil, and I was literally sleeping in city squares, and which somebody once told me I was fucking crazy after I spent a couple of nights at Plaza de la República in Sao Paulo. Plaza de la República. Somebody said, "What did you spend the night?" Over there. Are you fucking crazy? Every morning they find 5 corpses there. This is one of the most dangerous spots in the city. I said, "Well, I was so fast asleep I wouldn't know." And a woman brought me to her apartment so I could use her daughter's room. Her daughter had just gotten married and gone. She says, "We have the extra room. You can stay there for as long as you need." And I did stay there for months.
For what?
For months.
Hmm.
I painted the fucking apartment. I did plumbing. I did electrical. I left that place better than it was when I went in. Because the woman was giving me a decent place to live in. I had to repay somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was maybe 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand people who are so fucking ungrateful. It's a question of essential decency.
They feel entitled. Being entitled really is it really is a thing. And I don't know if it's more common now than it used to be, but there are people
To feel that they're owed something.
they're owed something, and when they get it, it's not a big deal because they were owed it. And yeah, the actor Kirk Douglas wrote his autobiography before he had his stroke, and he wrote some story about how he saved up money to buy a banjo, and when he finally had enough money, he went there and it was gone. It was in a pawn shop. He told this story. It was in his book, and he told this story on the Arsenio Hall show. And Arsenio Hall said, "Well, we got you that banjo," and he pulled it out and he gave it to him. And Kirk Douglas said, "This is a 4-string banjo. I wanted a 5-string." Arsenio said, "Well, this is what we got, so enjoy it."
This is what you have.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
couldn't
but you
believe that.
don't get the doing doing.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Even if you wanted a 6-string banjo, if they give you if they went out of their way to give it to you, you say, "Oh, thank you. It's really."
Fuck you. thank you, and when you get home, throw it in the trash. I don't care.
Yeah.
There's a little bit. Somebody in Twitter asked, with a picture of J Lo. J Lo is a woman that I have been seeing on and off for now 30 odd years.
30 odd years. Yeah.
Eh, I never fucking liked the bitch. I'm sorry. When she was younger, she had the face of a boxer, eh, and a deformed ass, eh, lipodemia, eh, far too much fat in that gluteus. And she was also a little bit too whorish. I later learned that she had uterine fever, so she was whorish. And they put a picture of this woman now at 54,
Mm.
pretending she is 20 because she's still the same shit. And Doris Day at 58. Who would you take? J Lo at 54 or Doris Day at 58? And of course, Doris Day is dressed, very much like a 60-year-old woman dressed
Mhm.
in the early 70s, with a sweater and baggy pants. And my answer is Doris Day at any age. Why? Because I'll take class if given the option over anything else. Doris Day had class and she could sing. Jennifer Lopez has no class and she can't sing. It's it's not a question, but the thing that people forget is people have forgotten how important having class is. You
Also,
notice that.
also, I mean, if you're 54, okay, for one thing, whatever photo J Lo posted or whoever posted, that's not what she looks like in real life. That
No,
thing has gone through.
she
A,
she looks like the one cleaning the toilet.
well, it's just not. I mean, if you saw J Lo, if she was standing like this in front of you, you would be shocked at all the weird little,
Oh yes.
everything that's done. And there's a lot to be said. I can't remember the name of the actress. She was in the Titanic. She played the female lead in the Titanic.
Oh, then she disappeared.
Well, she's still working, but see, she refuses to get cosmetic surgery. And
Mm.
she's 57 years old now. And she's now making indie movies. And people, she keeps being asked in every interview, why don't you just get cosmetic surgery so you can get, more roles? And she said, because she said, this thing is
You are talking about Kate Winslet, right?
Winslet. Yes.
Okay.
She said, this thing is my tool. I'm an actor. And if I mess this thing up, I won't get any. And
I won't have expressions.
exactly. And
Yeah.
Kate Winslet doesn't look 20 years old, but as a 57-year-old woman, she looks fine.
Yes.
It's you're not going to. Okay. I saw it was a TV series about ghosts, and it was the weirdest thing because I think it was called A Haunting in Georgia, and it was a family that had a poltergeist. The mother and the 16-year-old daughter had exactly the same face. And yet you could tell that the mother was older than the daughter. But the mother had no extra lines, no nothing.
Yeah.
But you could tell this one is an adult and this one is a child. And that's how subtle faces are. If you start messing with this, I mean, the French and Italian actresses.
Look at this. Happy. Sad.
Exactly.
Elated.
Yeah.
Dead. It's always the same face.
Yeah.
Look at Laura Luber. Do you think Laura Luber could act? Her face is a wax mask.
See, Italian and French actresses still get leading lady roles well into their 50s. They've got lines. But the thing is, they're 50. They're fit. They're physically fit, and they're confident. And that push that just pushes them all the way through. That gets them through. And Nicole Kidman made a movie with Sean Penn, and they had to change the ending because it didn't play well. By the time they refilled the ending, she had a new face. She had a different face. And so you watch this whole movie, and then you see the ending, and she's got a completely different face, and it's just jarring. It's just like, and I just thought, why did you do that to yourself? Your face was fine before.
She was a very beautiful woman before.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
No, she's too medically messed up. The Kardashians, apparently the Kardashian empire is starting to go down because
finally.
They're Kylie Jenner is in her early 20s, and she looks like she's 45 years old. She looks older than her older sisters who are 45 years old. And it's like, how did that happen?
And by the way, I have here Emery says Lauren Bacall and Katharine Hepburn who worked until as they aged.
Yeah.
How about Bette Davis?
Yeah.
How about Angela Lansbury?
Angela Lansbury basically looked the same her entire life. Her first movie is Gaslight. She was 18 years old, and she played a maid, and she looks exactly the same as she did 60 years later.
The same face as in Murder, She Wrote.
Exactly.
But of course, maybe a little more weight. Maybe, obviously, she aged.
Yeah.
But the same face. How about Helen Mirren?
Yeah, Helen Mirren. Helen Mirren made the transition from ingenue to grand dame, and she was successful at it. There's a former ingenue named Jenny Agutter. Jenny Agutter is about 65, and she still gets, major roles. She doesn't look like an ingenue anymore, but she's very fit. And, the British actors are more, they're more reasonable about aging than Americans are. Female actors in this country are urged to start getting cosmetic surgery at the age of 23.
But for the nose, maybe 18.
Yeah, true.
Judy Derrich is another example, and Angie Dickinson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, and none of them. By the way, another thing that I don't like, all of them bitches get the same face now.
Yeah. It's a stock face.
Pointed chain, a horizontal slit for a mouth, and big fucking cheeks. What is that? They look awful.
I don't know. I think in the past the goal was to look younger, and I think the goal today is to look like you had work done, so that people will say, "Oh, you had work done," and you say, "Yes, don't you love it? It's like my new car." It's like, no, I don't love it. It's horrible.
They don't have the mask of V for Vendetta on their faces. I think it's disgusting.
I was gonna interview a female jazz bassist, very attractive woman, and she told me to meet her at this concert. So I arrived at the concert during her break, and I recognized her from behind, and I walked up to her and I said hi, and she turned around, and it took all my willpower to not scream because she'd had her face completely gone under the knife. She had a typical LA, Los Angeles matron face. She had the big lips. She had the big cheeks. She had the weirdo squinty eyes and the chin and everything. And eventually the interview fell through. She never did it, but she took a perfectly fine face and wrecked it. She took a wrecking ball to it.
Somebody, Terry, is asking in the chat, but I'm sure she's doing it more than tongue in cheek. How about Lauren Sanchez? Lauren Sanchez means that money won't buy taste. You can have billions of dollars and still go for the hooker-looking stripper.
Isn't that weird? He's worth 200 odd billion, and that's who he chooses.
Can you imagine? And by the way, this is the thing, because there is a lot of the cheap shit in here, like lip enlargement. I'll tell you what. Why don't you put a disc and end up like those duck pigs in Africa? You stupid cow. Why do women do that to themselves? Oh, yes, because Jeff Bezos might like her. He's fucking blind, you know.
What's really awful when women have that done is when they turn to the side and you see their profile. The lips in profile are just awful. It's really terrible. Yep.
There were cartoons in the 40s, remember, of women with those lips? And a very straight waist and perky boobs. Maybe they're going for the cartoon look.
I can't remember how many years ago this was, but Madonna made a music video where she was with a bunch of cowboys and she was dancing. They were doing cowboy dancing, and then like it showed the cowboys roping cows and all that. And Madonna had lines in her face, and she was super attractive. She was in her late 30s or early 40s, and if she had not messed with her face, if she just kept going, she would have looked perfectly fine today. And now she's a catastrophe. She's a plastic surgery catastrophe.
I remember, I never saw her as pretty or beautiful.
No, she isn't.
Never. I do recall that in her 30s, she was nicer looking than in her 20s.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, that when she started getting a mature woman's face, she looked much better than she did when she was very young.
When she was young, she was one of the crowd.
Yeah.
Not particularly nice looking. I never liked her music either, so maybe that helped. I remember, God, what was it, 1980 when she came out with Material Girl?
Something around there.
The only thing that I disliked more than Material Girl was the stupid gals from London.
The Spice Girls.
The Spice Girls.
Yep.
And remember, in '89, I arrived in London, and every place they were. If you really want me or some shit
that. Yeah. Give me what you want if you really want.
And people laugh sometimes because they would start with this if you really want to say, I don't! Get the fuck out of here! It, the same thing with the culture club. Do you really want to hurt me? Yes, we do. Now get the fuck out of here.
Well,
Those are probably the three worst songs that I can remember in my life.
Madonna's Material Girl, the video, she completely copied Marilyn Monroe doing Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. And it was a
Yes.
very bad decision because comparing Madonna to Marilyn Monroe, I mean, it ain't no comparison. And
No.
if you're going to do
Very,
something
very unfavorable for her.
very unfavorable, if you're going to do something, if you're going to compare yourself to Marilyn Monroe, you have to do it as a joke. Like, you have to let everybody know ahead of time that you're not taking this seriously, that you're not Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was one of a kind. There was never anyone before, and there will probably never be anyone again like her.
No, not like her.
Yep.
And when you look at her before she became Marilyn, she wasn't that pretty.
No,
She wasn't ugly, but she wasn't that pretty. But there was something in the woman
exactly. That's exactly
that
it.
made everybody go ape shit.
If you look at her school photos, if somebody hands you her school photos, this one face will go and it'll hit you right in the eye.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, she's not really beautiful.
No,
but there's
she
just
wasn't.
something different.
Yes, something in her eyes. Maybe something of the way she looked. I don't want to sound like the fucking Beatles now, but something in her attitude.
Netflix made a movie called Blonde where they got this Cuban actress to play Monroe. And the whole movie was basically just men raping Marilyn Monroe. And it was supposed to be, because everyone was naked. Oh, so much nudity. And it was boring and stupid. And the actress was able to capture Monroe in little flickers. People criticized her because she has a slight Cuban accent, but so what?
Yeah.
But Monroe was much more than that. Monroe was a businesswoman who was entirely in control of her image. It wasn't, this movie presented her as this helpless rape victim. She wasn't.
No.
Where she was helpless was when she got married. Joe DiMaggio beat the hell out of her, and then that stupid playwright,
who probably couldn't get it up anyway by the looks of it.
well, he couldn't deal with the fact.
Miller.
Arthur Miller. Marilyn Monroe was not educated, but she was natively brilliant.
Yes.
There was a British reporter who did tons of interview hours with her where she was just talking about everything. A smarter person you could never come across. And Arthur Miller hated the competition. He hated the competition. He wanted her to be arm candy, and when she wouldn't be arm candy, he called her a whore. And it's like, Marilyn had many problems, and the men in her life definitely took advantage of her. But when it came to her career, she was completely in charge of it. She knew what she was doing. She was a brilliant woman. Yep, exactly.
She designed it.
Exactly.
Let me see. I have two comments here that Blind Dio. We were talking about that ugly caricature of a woman that Jeff Bezos married, and I refer to her as a cartoon image from the 40s, and he says like the femme fatale from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, perfect. That is exactly what we meant.
The kind of a Yugoslavian version.
Yes. God. Those silicone lips. You know that there is a subculture of Dominican and Puerto Rican girls here in South Florida that use three things that deform women's faces, and women who are maybe plain looking but not ugly, uh, and women who are beautiful. All of them do this shit. All of them end up with the same ugly fucking death mask, and it involves silicone in the lips, Botox in the forehead and
Mhm.
cheeks, and tattooed eyebrows.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yep, 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 yep.
Oh my god! Looks literally like a fucking corpse who was retouched by somebody who was totally fucking blind.
Well, I
Because
never.
those tattooed eyebrows, they do them thick, like Frida Kahlo type of eyebrows.
Mhm.
Oof.
I never understood. I always thought Audrey Hepburn was sort of beautifully perfect. I always thought that her short hair, her eyebrows, just everything about her was really perfect. And you see women who do women who American women who take methamphetamine, they always pluck their eyebrows, and I don't know why. So you see these women whose heads look like hard-boiled eggs,
Yes.
and you automatically know she's a meth head. She's on meth. I don't know what the hell it is. Like, do they get meth fashion magazines? Do they watch meth fashion shows? I don't know what it is, but whenever the cops pull over a woman on meth, she's always got these tiny plucked eyebrows. And now I've seen a lot of young women with tattoos on their faces, like tattoos on their cheeks,
Yes.
tattoos on their foreheads.
Like the faux Arab in the Mummy.
Yeah, yeah,
eh,
that, yeah,
you, with the tattoos here.
yeah.
It's I don't know. I wasn't a plane. I just had two flights from hell, going to DC and coming back from DC. The first one was 12 hours late, and the second one was 8 hours late. Fuck them all. If I hear ground hold once again, and this is the reason. Remember, I told you I prefer to drive if I'm
Mhm.
going anywhere east of the
Yeah, yeah,
Rockies.
yeah.
This time I did this because I had to. But God, it was fucking savage. And uh, there were its fun moments. I go through the machine, and when I pass, they say, "Well, I'm sorry, sir, I'm gonna need to check you." And he shows me the machine, and there is a red square on my balls. And he says, I have to touch you in this way or that way." And I said, "It isn't because you find me attractive, is it?" And he started cracking up. But essentially, they had to pat my balls.
Mhm.
Says, "Do you want to do it in private?" I said, "No, you do it in public. I want help if I need it." But the whole thing was ridiculous. I'm sitting finally on my uh, inside the plane, and the woman in front of me was a uh, she wasn't a steak, she was a hamburger, if you know what I mean, and definitely on the trailer park side of things. And she had like a Chinese symbol tattooed on her
Mhm.
neck,
Mhm.
covered by a ponytail.
Mhm.
And I said, "Why the fuck would a woman get a tattoo there so that somebody takes it from behind while grabbing the ponytail and can read the fucking tattoo?"
Well, remember when it was seen women tattooed their lower backs?
No, the tramp stamp.
Yeah, That's exactly. It's so a man can read her when he's behind her. Yeah.
Why would they do that? I already don't like tattoos, to tell you the truth.
Why does
I,
Roger
I,
Stone have Richard Nixon's face tattooed between his shoulder blades?
so a Nixon fan
Yep.
can look at Dick, and there's rather compromising circumstances.
Oh.
I did ask somebody the same question this week. One of these days, somebody's going to tell me. Pamela Anderson has those super thin eyebrows. Some people actually do have the super thin eyebrows anyway, particularly blondes, but that's not because they're super thin, but because they're super blonde. Uh, he and his wife are swingers, yeah. Have you seen them? If I were married to that thing, I wouldn't want to fuck her either. Come on here, let's trade. I give you this, and you give me your wife. If she's a
Isn't it
female,
weird
so
that
much the better.
swingers are never people you actually want to swing with?
No, not ever. I mean, it would be like getting a date with Macron's wife.
Oh boy, Candace Owens is in so much trouble.
Oh, she's screwed.
She's screwed.
She's so royally fucking screwed. But not the way she likes it, though.
They're going to present so much evidence that Brigitte is a woman, and Candace is going to be all sassy, and then she's going to look at the bill for all of this madness.
Yeah.
she's an idiot.
Ayo is remembering. I remember seeing this south of the river in Cobham. He used to live, and would see the Croydon facelift. Croydon is a town south of London near Gatwick Airport, and the Croydon facelift is a ponytail pulled so tight that the faces resemble, one of those shrunken heads.
Mm-hmm.
Why would people do that? They do, and I remember those as well. And somebody said that only Candace Owens can make Macron's wife look good in comparison. Um, she went too far and too stupid.
Yeah. No, it's really odd. It's a case of one of those people hiding their madness really well, and then when they finally get in a position where they think they have it all, then they start showing it. And
and insanity defense is the only thing left for her, because you can say, and I do, and I will do it now. I'm sorry, but Macron's wife looks indistinguishable from a man to me. That I can say, I'm protected. What you cannot say is affirm she is a man.
well, and also start offering what you call evidence for it.
What evidence does she have? By the way,
She also claims that Brigitte's brother is actually Brigitte. There are no photos of Brigitte as a young woman, which is a complete lie. Just on and on and on. She lists reasons. She doesn't just say Brigitte is a man. She lists all these.
She lists all of this
absolutely,
other stuff, and of course,
absolutely
she
false
has no
reason.
proof of anything. She has
No,
no
she
proof of
hasn't.
anything.
Well, after she was served with the lawsuit, she said she looks forward to forcing Brigitte to expose her penis in court.
Oh,
Yeah.
They're gonna shove something bigger than a penis up her ass now. Somebody says, didn't the Macrons sue her? Yes, they did, for slander and a bunch of other things. They're gonna destroy her.
Yeah. No, I mean,
And Brigitte, is a very, very vengeful and sourpuss.
Mhm.
She's gonna go for her throat. This is not gonna stop until the stupid cow Owens is penniless and completely destroyed.
Also, the Macrons are going to basically have limitless funds because they're going to have every wealthy person in Europe who despises Candace Owens. They're all going to be helping the Macrons with legal fees.
Oh God, no, it's so easy. And Ayo says apparently he liked my phrase, too far and too stupid. It sounds like the title for Owens' autobiography. Um, Let me check a couple more of these. I wonder why Owens didn't go after Muh Shell. Maybe that's a bridge too far for her.
I mean,
The funny thing is, I don't think Muh Shell would sue her. Um, and I always have you noticed? I remember in the first Democratic convention where she spoke, they also had her brother speak.
hmm,
I think it was the first time we saw her brother. And of course, neither of them is good looking. But her brother has more feminine features than she does. And I said, Mother Nature is such a fucking bitch. Because I know many an instance where a woman has the father's face and
yeah,
a man the mother's face.
yeah.
And it turns out that the sister is more masculine than the brother. And
So,
that's the case here. Now, you can make a shit ton of jokes about it, but, you know, cut it out, man.
well, I have four brothers and one sister, and three of us brothers have my mother's face exactly. My sister has my father's face, and then one brother has my father's face. Um, but three of us have my mother's face, like
Yeah,
identically with my mother. So, I mean, she looked like a woman, but we all have the identical nose, the identical cheekbones,
yep.
just everything.
It happens a lot in nature, and sometimes it works fine.
Mhm.
And sometimes, this woman looks like a man with a wig. Uh, But, to stretch it like these people do, I think something that could be funny and fodder for comedy, something that in the hands of a George Carlin would have you in stitches in 2 seconds, in the hands of these idiots becomes slender.
Mhm.
They don't know the limits. Um, Owens' representative says she is protected by First Amendment. No, she's not.
What an
She,
idiot!
Owens' representative is Owens finally found a lawyer who is even stupider than she is.
Yeah, it's
Um,
not the government that's suing her.
Number one. Number two, slander is not protected speech.
No, of course not. What a
Then
dummy! What a dummy!
you, you gotta be a fucking idiot.
Well, remember, Candace used to be a Democrat activist, so
Yeah, yeah. No, notice what I did a moment ago. In my opinion, she looks like a man. If she doesn't like it, she can suck it, baby, because that is a protected statement. I can express, in my opinion, she's a man, man. In
well,
my opinion, anything that comes after that.
the
But if I
interesting.
say that I
Mhm.
have proof that she has a penis, that's not the same thing and it's not protected speech. It's a
No,
slanderous statement.
the interesting thing about Brigitte is that when she became an adult, there's a picture of her, for example, at the age of 22, holding her first child. Her
Yes.
face is virtually identical to the face today, except the face today has more wrinkles. but
Yes.
she's always had exactly the same face. And at the age of 22, she had some pretty extravagant wrinkling. She had when she smiled, she had these huge wrinkles on either side, not dimples, but wrinkles. And even as a child, there's a photo of her at her first communion or something like that, and her face is recognizable as Brigitte Macron. So the claim is that Candace is making is that she was born a male, and that she's actually her brother, and
yeah, I know. It's a convoluted twist on the trans story,
and it's brainless. It's something that even if it were true, wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. It's. I mean, who cares what Macron and his wife are up to? Who cares? His wife's
number one is their fucking. There are many things that I care about Macron.
Right.
None of those things involve his wife.
Well, exactly.
I care about the fact that the son of a bitch comes out this week saying that that France is going to recognize the Palestine state, whatever the fuck that is, whatever the shit he is, where is it? What are its boundaries?
Remember, this is a guy whose wife, on an official tour, in front of cameras, shoved his face with both her hands, and he fell back with an expression of utter shock. And then when he saw the cameras, he suddenly went, "Hello." I mean,
yeah. And then they went downstairs with her, with Brigitte refusing to hold his hand.
Exactly. No, I mean,
she was pissed.
These are deeply unserious people. Macron is a deeply unserious man.
What you don't know is that at that moment they were having a discussion, and she was saying, "Are you going to sue that bitch or not?"
Yeah.
No, who cares? Go fuck yourself, you idiot. Yeah. If you don't sue that bitch, I'll throw you down the stairs.
No, and then the government, the Elysee Palace says, "Oh, they were just horsing around." Yeah. Oh yes, it sure looked like it.
They're French. Don't you remember the French? The songs where they dance, where the man goes up and slaps the woman.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. He wears a black and white striped shirt and a beret, and he boom, he throws her on the floor. Yeah.
There is actually such a dance in Marseille.
Yeah.
But you know, that's them. That's the way the French do it. But God, she has children. Says, that's the thing. You know, it's fucking stupid.
Apache dance.
Oh.
The Apache dance. Apache dance is where the man beats up the woman.
And you know. By the way, Bugs Bunny had a version of that dance that was absolutely hysterical.
Yep.
Hysterical. So, you know, fuck Owens. I've never liked it. I've never liked it. She's a fucking Democrat who tried to find a grift. It didn't work, so he became progressively nutter. And whatever happens to her, I don't give a shit. Let her disappear into the horizon. Oh God, how people busted my chops with that bitch in the CPAC of 2019. Ugh. So anyway, we're done with that. Notice that we managed to get to the end of the program because we're going to have to finish now. And we didn't speak a word about Israel.
No.
I'm Israel high. And that's good. Every now and then we need to take a break. I expect, by the way, that now that Trump is taking his gloves off with Hamas and giving up on any possibility of negotiating, in other words, he finally caught up with us. Because there is no negotiating with these motherfuckers.
No.
And there is no negotiating with Pakistan either.
No.
Um, and he's finally given up on Putin. It sounds like the opportunity Putin had of a negotiated settlement where he could save face and keep something is gone. He's gone. And he's going to get a beef enema now.
No, the Russians are screwed. They have no air force. They have no navy. Um, they're reduced to sending 65-year-old men to the front, and idiot Americans who emigrate to Russia to get away from all the gay propaganda here, and they end up on the front lines.
There was a guy, I was reading a story about a fucking asshole who decided to take Putin at his word and move to Russia because he wanted a more conservative, family-oriented society.
Mm-hmm.
He was sent to the front.
Yeah.
And apparently he started texting, sending messages to his wife because he needed to buy uniform, buy bullets, buy everything because he got nothing other than 3 weeks training that was more or less a joke.
Yeah,
And
with no rifle.
with no rifle, with no. So he was sent down there with no weapons, nothing but a basic uniform. And the wife started buying all of this shit and sending money, and then the messages stopped. And he's a gunner. Well, fuck him.
Well, these
Fuck.
these people, they're just the idea that Russia is this haven, this heaven on earth of conservative values and traditional family values, et cetera, et cetera. Where I mean, the mind is left blank by contemplating that there are people who'd actually haul up stakes and move to Russia because they would prefer Russia to here. Because if they even hear gay propaganda, it's going to cause them to have to be hospitalized. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievably stupid, isn't it?
Yeah,
So, Mother Nature, like God, is unscrutable.
yeah.
And it has its own way of clearing the gene pool
Mm,
periodically. So, sending these fuckers, as you mentioned, or Mother Nature sending them, eh, it's a positive thing. We are freed from an idiot. The Russians get one more moron to send to the grinding machine, and and the Koreans are spared one soldier for once. Because, by the way, there are no Koreans left.
no, and was it they were going to get Laotian engineers to clear minefields?
Yes, can you imagine that?
Good luck communicating, having communication between the Russians and the Laotians.
No, you know what the Laotian engineers are?
Yeah, exactly. They're guys who walk out in the fields and set
Pe-
off the mine.
Peasants. They're
Yeah.
gonna put them, forming a line, holding hands, walk through the field, and whoever survives on the other side gets a medal. I don't get it that people still fall for this shit, but no. Um, and watch out because for the first time since this shit started, I got it says found one. Yeah, that's what they scream as they're about 2 yards into the air. Found one. Um, for the first time in 3 years, the Ukrainians are about to get some real weapons.
Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
think
and the
it's a great thing.
Ukrainians, people criticize them for what they're doing currently. The Ukrainians, remember, they were making some god awful number of drones per month, 20,000 per month or something like that.
Much higher now.
Okay, they're blowing up every Russian soldier who they come across.
Yes.
So there's all these videos. I don't watch them, but I see the thumbs. It's some old fuck sitting on the side of the road with his head down on his arms. They blow him up, and people are criticizing him. He wasn't doing anything. Well,
Yeah,
in
he's a
Ukraine.
Russian soldier. He's a Russian soldier in Ukraine. That's all
Yeah.
he needs to do.
Yeah. So war is ugly. War is disgusting. War is fucked up.
Oh, another Palestinian died. Well, they still have hostages. They're the corpses of 2 American hostages still in there.
Yeah.
That's it. I have zero empathy for these fuckers.
No.
And that
No,
includes those holding the hostages, those who know where the bodies are, those who know where those who know are, because everybody knows in Gaza where everybody is. So there are no innocents as far as I'm concerned. Blow them all to hell.
I'll go even farther. If they catch somebody, I have no problem if they hook them up to a car battery by their balls, to get information. It's like this has to end. And
I have only one piece of advice for whoever does that. Black is ground, red is live. Make sure the balls are wet.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
Go ahead. That's all I have to say to those people.
Yeah, just finish it, and if you feel guilty about what you did, work it out with your rabbi, and make donations, whatever.
Well, let me put it this way: the Torah is quite clear about the importance of human life, and if you save one life, you save the universe. So it is a mitzvah to save a life. Well, the problem is that there is a greater mitzvah, which is protecting the people of Israel.
Mhm.
So killing these motherfuckers is a mitzvah.
Mhm.
Stop pussyfooting around and go and do your job
Mhm.
to guarantee the future of the people of Israel and protect them today. Not one Hamas can be left alive. Ilo is saying hands across the minefield, and that reminded me of the last thing I'm going to mention today, which is the news. Remember uh, that huge concert to raise money for food for Ethiopia back
Yeah.
in I
I
think it was
remember.
in the early 90s. And
80s, mid 80s.
80s, mid 80s. Oh, yes, 86. I think it was Gil and all of Bono,
Mhm.
Sting, and all of these fuckers. And they did that concert and sent shit tons of money, 1985. Shit tons of money to buy food for the people suffering the famine of Ethiopia. Do you know where that money ended up?
Well, I know that the supplies that were purchased rotted on the docks.
Yeah, that was, by the way, Live Aid.
Live Aid, yeah. The
So,
leadership in Ethiopia was deliberately starving its people. That
yes,
it was a man-made famine. So
the president of Ethiopia was Mengistu Haile Mariam, and he sold the supplies and used the money to buy weapons from the Russians
Mhm.
to continue his war of extermination in
Yeah,
the Civil War, and Those famished people eventually disappeared because they were fucking shot.
Yeah, the thing about these famines that everybody was concerned about periodically is that they were all man-made.
Yes,
They were all weapons. They were all genocidal style weapons.
yes.
And
The
you
same
know,
thing is going on in Sudan today, and nobody gives a shit, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah, no,
But that's it. Forced relocation to the middle of the desert has the side effect of making food not available.
mhm.
Mm. Eh, Cutting off water to villages so that their crops fail has a singular effect of creating a lot of hungry people.
Mhm.
But those are acts of war, like you said. It's not. And these fucking imbeciles ended up putting money into the hands of a communist dictator so that he could finish off those assholes
Mhm.
with Russian weapons. Great job.
Well,
All of that is a scam.
yeah, it's always a scam. It's like these photographers who take these photos of starving people. I remember some guy telling the story of a photo of this Ethiopian child walking towards him on all fours, and it was a living skeleton. And
Yeah.
he took this photo. Then he got up and left. He didn't buy the kid a sandwich. He didn't go off somewhere and get food from the reporter's canteen and come back. He left.
Mhm.
And then he wrote a sob story about the almost certainly dead kid. And they don't give a shit. They're all leftists. They don't give a shit about individuals. They care about the statistic. Just like Stalin said, a million, one man murdered is a tragedy. One man dead is a tragedy. A million dead is a statistic. So
Yeah. And it still is.
yeah.
And it still is. I was in DC. I was with the ambassador from Uganda. Uh, and Uganda is a relatively small country, as you know, it's not very rich. It used to be the worst of all shitholes. Now, the problem they have is they have over 2 million refugees
Mm-hmm.
that they have to feed. And they can't.
No.
They don't have money for their own citizens, but they have to feed 2 million refugees. There are 33 million refugees in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you read that in an American newspaper?
No.
Uh,
The Democratic Republic of Congo is responsible for untold millions of refugees.
yes,
It's this is how these people do business. You can't. Well, for one thing, you can't give money to the guy who's causing the famine and think he's going to go. Oh, thank you. I'll feed my people. No, he won't. Um,
yes.
He'll buy guns with it or a palace or whatever. But these are different cultures. A famine to them is no big deal. Ending human life is no big deal. So, you can wave your stupid little flags or ignore it or do whatever, but,
Mm.
Hamas is still going to get exterminated. You haven't stopped the Israelis. If anything, you've clarified things for them.
You clarify things and you made them lose lives. Many Israelis have died in this war that should not have died at all because of the effort in protecting, feeding the civilian population, as if there was such a thing in a land where everybody is complicit with Hamas.
Well, they're all
Uh,
combatants. All
they're
Gazans
all,
are combatants.
period, from 5 years onwards. And with that, we're closing in on 4 hours, as
Whoa,
Kakoden says. We'll be here for 3 hours and 40 minutes.
that's
And
enough.
I hope our viewers will appreciate this and send some fucking moolah our way. By the way, after 3 hours and 40 minutes, don't expect me to be nice. We have 1,000 people watching. A buck from each of you would help us a lot. We're not going to get that. So how about average 10 cents? Um, quadverum.com/support us. You can make a monthly contribution or a one-time contribution there, or and subscribe to uh, X at the Brother Lie. You do that, you will help us continue to produce these things and more. And also, if you are on Odyssey, uh, take a Valium, paste the system for support there. Trust me, it's not that difficult. If I could do it, and a few of you could do it without having had any practice, it's not that fucking complicated. If you have any problems at the Quad Meet tomorrow or the VIP room on Tuesday, we'll discuss it, not here. And that's about it for me. I'll leave it here so that you remember to do these. If you are watching in Twitter, you have it right there. Go to at the Brother Lie and subscribe. It's $5. It's one freaking Starbucks coffee every 2 months. Come on. And with that, I'm done. And Thomas, do you have a last word for us?
Holus bolus.
Hollis Bolus! It's better than Hocus Pocus. Hollis Bolus! Take care. Good night, my friend. And I'll see everybody either tomorrow or next week. You have a good night.